Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 41. Chapter 41, Banquet 2. After he finished speaking, Bai Xiao looked at the mother-son duo with reluctance before turning around and walking toward the outside of the courtyard. Aya. After Bai Xiao left, Bai Xiao Chen smacked his own little head. I forgot about uncle's meeting gift. I'll bring it for him the next time. Ever since he came to Luhuo Kingdom, he had already prepared the meeting gift. Who would have known that he would actually forget about it? Chen I will be at the Lan family residence these few days. If your Aunt Hua comes, ask her to seek me out at the Lan family residence. Bai Yan frowned. She had come to the Luhuo Kingdom for a period of time already. It was about time the one from Phoenix House arrived. At this moment, in the Bai family's study, Yurong was pouring a cup of tea for Bai Zhenxiang. Looking at Bai Zhenxiang, who was silent, she said, "Husband, don't harm your body out of exhaustion. Go and rest first." Bai Zhenxiang sighed. "Wrong go and prepare a gift later. I want to visit someone." "Husband." Yurong's eyes were full of confusion as even her tone was full of questions. "Some time back, Shadow Moon Sec sold that old residence. I've heard that the buyer was the owner of the Phoenix House, Hualuo." Yurong was stunned as she looked at Bai Zhenxiang in a peculiar manner. She had heard of the forces Shadow Moon Sect and Phoenix House. Despite these forces being secondary sects, they were actually comparable to the royal clan. This Shadow Moon Sect had gained its fame through assassinations. As for Phoenix House, it was a brothel. Normally established at various main streets and small alleys, it was a place where men and women enjoyed themselves, yet it was able to obtain various information around the world. Its abilities and might was not to be looked down on. Previously, the family had bought this residence because this residence was close to the old residence of Shadow Moon Sect. He had moved here to stay in order to suck up to the people of Shadow Moon Sect. Who would have known that the people of Shadow Moon Sect had never once appeared in that old residence? Furthermore, they had even sold it to the brothel now. "Husband, what should we give as a gift to Phoenix House?" Yurong knew the importance of this matter and asked solemnly. "You can just prepare as you see fit. I am very assured with you dealing with matters." Bai Zhenxiang smiled gently. He had just finished speaking when the door to the study was opened with a bang. A young maiden about 17 or 18 years old rushed in and pounced into Bai Zhenxiang's arms with a cry. "Ji what happened?" Bai Zhenxiang was extremely doting toward this daughter. He didn't blame her for barging in without seeking permission and instead asked her gently. "Dad." Bai Ji raised her face, which was full of tears. "Bai Xiao hooked up with a woman who has a child. Today, that little B** purposely framed me. He knew it and he still helped that little B** bully me. See the wound on my face, they had done it to me." With this, Bai Zhenxiang finally saw the claw mark on Bai Ji's face. He instantly burst in anger and said angrily. "Bai Xiao actually dared. Servants, after he returns, make him roll over here to see me immediately." A ruthless intent flashed in Bai Ji's eyes. The moment she thought about the matter that happened to today, she had a kind of impulse to rip that little B** into shreds. And that little B** "Daddy, you must definitely catch him for me. I want to ruthlessly give him a good beating. Father will make a decision for you in this matter." Bai Zhenxiang's face was livid. The vein at the corner of his forehead popped and his fists were clenched till they were cracking. He had already originally disliked this son of his. If it were not because he only had one son, he would not have been so indulging toward him for so many years. Now he was actually helping an outsider to bully his own biological younger sister. If he didn't discipline him ruthlessly, he would really forget his own family name. "Husband, quell your anger," Yurong said, stroking Bai Zhengxiang's chest. "No matter what, Xiao is your son. Furthermore, the Lan family has already decided to organize a banquet for Bai Yan's return. When the time comes, Bai Xiao would definitely need to participate. If other people see him with wounds, wouldn't they misunderstand you, my husband?" Chapter 42. Chapter 42, Banquet 3. Bai Zhengxiang's frown of anger eased up, but the anger within his heart was hard to dispel. We don't have to bring out the family law. Let him go to the ancestral hall to think about his mistakes. Before the Lan family banquet, he isn't allowed to take a single step away. After the banquet, I will then discipline him. Yurong's words were not without reason. He could not allow others misunderstand and think that he was ill-treating Bai Xiao, and so, he could only temporarily let him off. 1. After the banquet was over, he would settle the score with him. After Bai Xiao left the old residence, he did not immediately return to the Bai family. Instead, he made a trip to the Lan family first, relaying Bai Yan's words to old Madame Lan before returning back to Bai Manor. After he returned to Bai Manor, he was informed that Bai Zhenxiang wanted him to go to the ancestral hall to reflect on his mistakes. He sneered and could not be bothered to explain himself, directly entering the ancestral hall instead. If he was to show his face to these people of Bai Manor, then he'd rather stay in the ancestral hall. It was still better than seeing those people. Within a few days, the news of the Lan family wishing to organize a welcoming banquet for Bai Yan was spread throughout the main streets and small alleys. Many people of great forces received the invitation. Naturally, as Bai Yan's former fiancé, Nangongyi had also received the news. He had originally thought that the Lan family would definitely send him an invitation. Who knew that he waited till the night itself, yet he did not receive any invitation. Crown Prince. A voice so soft downright to the bones made Nangongyi regain his sense. He hugged the woman who was laying by his side and said gently, "Ruo-er, did you know that Bai Yan is back?" Obviously feeling the woman in his embrace stiffen, Nangongyi immediately felt heartache. "I know that you have suffered in the Bai family residence all those years because of Bai Yan. Now, you don't have to be afraid. With me here, I will make a decision for you." 1. Crown Prince. Bai Ruo lowered her head as she sobbed softly and said, "Bai Yan's character has always been vicious and malicious, and she is even blindly in love with you. Since she has returned this time, she would definitely not forgive me. After all, it was I who had snatched you away." "Ruo-er, what silly words are you saying? How could I be snatched away by you? We are both willing parties. What is Bai Yan even counted as?" Nangongyi frowned, obviously not having any good feelings toward Bai Yan. "Furthermore, you are the current crown princess consort. Besides the Empress Dowager and the Empress, you are the noblest woman in this world. Our Liner is also extremely noble. Why is there a need to fear her?" 1. No, Bai Ruo shook her head and said with a bitter smile. "I am clearest about Bai Yan's character. She likes to reverse white and black. In a situation whereby she knows her identity is not comparable to mine, she would definitely smear the Bai family's name. For example, she will say that her loss of innocence was my doing, her running away from home was because my mother was greedy and sold her off. Bai Yan would always push her own responsibility to others." 2. Nangongyi's expression darkened and anger surged in the bottom of his eyes. "Crown Prince, speaking till here," Bai Ruo held Nangongyi's hands, her gaze affectionate. "Ruo-er doesn't care how the world discusses this. As long as you believe Ruo-er, that is enough." Under Bai Ruo's beautiful gaze that was full of deep feelings, Nangongyi's gaze softened. "Ruo-er, how could I not believe you? Not believe the Bai family? Bai Yan is malicious and vicious, while you are kind and gentle. Who the world would believe in is extremely obvious. As for the Bai family selling her, That is really quite ridiculous, too. He sneered as his lips were full of sarcasm. The Bai family is so rich, how would the Bai family lack that bit of silver? Just based on her dirty body, nobody would want her even for a tael of silver. 1. Hubby. With this utterance of hubby, Nangongyi felt his heart flutter as he looked at the woman who had buried her head in his chest as he said in a warm tone, Ruo-er, I plan to make a trip to meet the Lan family later on. 1. Chapter 43. Chapter 43, Banquet 4. Bai Ruo raised her head in surprise, her expression a little nervous. Crown Prince wishes to see Bai Yan? It's also true, that Bai Yan is after all the number one beauty in the world. It is right that Crown Prince has the heart as well. If Crown Prince is willing, you can take her in as a concubine. Ruo-er has no opinion toward that. Ruo-er, you are truly too kind. Nangongyi left a kiss on Bai Ruo's face in heartache. Don't worry. I won't even be bothered to take an extra glance at a woman like Bai Yan who has lost her innocence and furthermore, would not allow her to cause you hindrance. I am going over this time merely to see how pitifully Bai Yan has spent these past few years. I reckon that after the passing of 5 years, she is already dull and dim. Bai Yan back then was merely skinny, but she was not the kind whereby her skin was yellowish and without muscles. Instead, she was still quite beautiful, especially her skin, which was white and glowing. However, these 5 years, she had been bringing up a child alone as a woman. She was definitely incomparably pitiful. No matter how beautiful a beauty was, she would also definitely be like a pearl that has fallen, no longer able to shine the way it had in the past. At this Bai Ruo displayed a smile. Crown Prince, then Ruo-er will await your return in the manor. Nangongyi kissed Bai Ruo and then got up from the bed under Bai Ruo's coquettish gaze and shouted, Servants, prepare a palanquin for me. I want to go to the Lan family to visit. 1. He reckoned that the Lan family did not send an invitation to him because they were worried Bai Yan would reignite her passion toward him. Since that was the case, then he needed to make a trip to the Lan family even more so. 2. He wanted Bai Yan to understand the price for betraying him back then. In the Lan manor, just outside the gate, many luxurious carriages stopped at the doorway of the manor as a few lavishly dressed people got off the carriage and walked inside. Ever since old Master Lan fell sick, the Lan family did not have such a happening gathering for a long while. Today, their attendance was not to show support, but merely to watch the Lan family as a joke. A Bai family girl who had gotten pregnant before marriage was even disdained so badly by the Bai family, but the Lan family ended up treating her as a treasure and even organized a welcoming banquet for her. Was this not the greatest joke within Luhuo Kingdom? At this moment, in the Lan family's back hall, 3 males and females stood in a row, looking outward of the door with curious gazes. Not long after, under their gazes, a woman in a stunning red robe that could topple cities entered under the moonlight. The woman was so beautiful that she was incomparable. Her hair was like a waterfall cascading, lightly fluttering in the night wind. Yan'er, you are here? Quickly come over to maternal grandmother's side and sit. The old madam patted on the couch before her as she spoke with a smile. Bai Yan also was not hypocritical as she directly walked over. There was a faint smile on her face as she slowly took her seat by the old madam's side. 1. Come, let me introduce them, the old madam patted Bai Yan's shoulder. This one who is older than you is your eldest older cousin brother, Lan Shaoling. He is 27 this year. This one who is about the same age as you is your second older cousin brother, Lan Shayan. Both of them have not been in the Lan family residence these few days, so that's why you have not seen them a few days back. This is your younger cousin's sister, Lan Xiaoun. She was previously injured and had insisted on going to admire a manor in the suburbs, so she has just come back. 1. That older man smiled gently. Grandmother, you don't need to be so detailed. Although we have not interacted much with younger cousin's sister, the two manors are after all, not too far away. Could it be that she doesn't even know our names? Haha, I had forgotten about this. The old madam laughed aloud as she gently patted Bai Yan's hand. Yanner, it is my carelessness. Actually, you would have been able to recognize them even without me having to introduce them. Bai Yan gave a gentle laugh but did not say much. She indeed knew about the situation within the Lan family and had merely not seen them before. Chapter 44 Chapter 44, Banquet V. Younger cousin's sister. An immature smile appeared on Lan Shayan's face. Welcome back. In the future, you are our Lan family's member. Big brother will help you to beat up who bullies you. Then, thank you second older cousin brother. Bai Yan smiled. Not knowing why, when he saw that smile, Lan Shayan's handsome face blushed as his expression was a little distressed. Hey! Lan Xiaoun walked over to stand before Bai Yan. Her chin raised lightly and compared to the Lan family brothers, her tone a little proud. Are you the elder sister of Baiji, that despicable person? Let me tell you, I have a grudge with that despicable person. In the future when we fight, you can't help her. Although Lan Xiaoun was a little proud, she did not look down on Bai Yan just because she had gotten pregnant before marriage. She merely hated Baiji, that's all. Why would I help her? Bai Yan asked with the corner of her lips tugged downward. This time, Lan Xiaoun was stunned. Aren't you her elder sister? The other people did not know about the situation in the Bai family. If the Bai Yan Bai Xiao sibling duo did not speak up, perhaps the world would have thought that everything was harmonious within the Bai family. This was also the reason why Lan Xiaoun had said those words. Old Madam Lan slapped her thigh. I almost forgot to tell you all about this matter. After she said those words, the old madam told them everything about how Bai Yan had suffered at the Bai family, including how Bai Ruo had caused Bai Yan to lose her virginity and also how she was almost sold off by Yurong. When Lan Xiaoun and the rest heard this, their eyes popped out of their heads and their mouths hung agape. None of them dared to believe that there was such a malicious woman on earth. Pitiful child. Dongruolan wiped the corner of her eyes. Why didn't you tell us when you were being bullied at the Bai family? Xiao is also the same. How could both of you not actually mention a single word? We didn't even know you two had actually suffered so much. Her voice carried blame within it, but heartache could be seen in her eyes. You don't have your biological mother to protect you. In the future, Aunt shall be your mother. You can continue to stay here in the Lan family residence with ease, you don't have to worry about being sold off. A surge of warmth flowed in the depths of Bai Yan's heart. The feeling of having relatives was really good. The original proud-looking Lan Xiaoun regained her senses and a hint of guilt could be seen on her face. I'm sorry. I did not know that you had suffered so much. Don't worry. In the future, Baiji will be our common enemy. We will definitely defeat her if we are allies. The Bai family is too much. Lan Shayan hated them as if they were his enemies. His clear gaze was full of fury. Dominating possession of auntie's dowry and even say that younger cousin's sister is eating and drinking in the Bai family for free. And even wanted to sell off younger cousin's sister. Our Lan family cannot just let this matter be. Even Lan Shaoling, who was always calm and steady, was quiet for quite a while. Mother, grandmother, I agree with second younger brother's words. Younger cousin's sister had suffered so much. If we don't speak up on her behalf, who else will back her? All right, since all of you have decided so, then. The old madam had just about to bring the discussion to a close when Bai Yan's voice rang out from beside her. Maternal grandmother, I already have a plan for revenge. I can settle this matter on my own. Hearing this, the old madam sighed as she gently patted Bai Yan's hand. Since you have decided, then maternal grandmother will respect your wishes. If you have any needs, you must bring it up. We will help you till the end. Even if she had to fall out with the royal clan, she would not hesitate. Mother, Dongrulan slowly got up and said with a smile. The guests have more or less arrived. Let's go out first. The old madam gently nodded as she stood up while tugging Bai Yan's hand. Little Yan'er, let's go. Today, my Lan family wants to fight for your identity. Chapter 45. Chapter 45, Banquet 6. As outsiders were not allowed in the hall, the old madam naturally had to bring Bai Yan out. Lan Xiaoun ran to Bai Yan's side and asked. Hey, did you really cure my grandfather's body? Previously I heard Daddy say that you had acknowledged a Tier 4 pill master as your master. Yeah, Bai Yan responded as the corner of her lips hooked into an arc. Lan Xiaoun's eyes gleamed. Then, can you teach me how to refine pills? Bai Yan turned her head to look at Lan Xiaoun, and after she saw her big, bright eyes, she subconsciously nodded. I can teach you, but as to whether you are able to learn, that would depend on your own innate talent. With Bai Yan's words, Lan Xiaoun was so excited that she almost leaped up. Her heart started to be proud again. So what if you, Baiji, have an elder sister who is the crown princess consort? After she acknowledged Bai Yan as her master, she would have a Tier 4 pill master as her grandmaster. Her status would not be worse off than Baiji's. However, it was a pity that Lan Xiaoun did not have any innate talent in refining pills whatsoever. She was only suited for practicing. Therefore, after many failed attempts of refining pills, she could only lower her head in disappointment and failure. However, Lan Xiaoun shamelessly wanted to be Bai Yan's disciple in name. It was fine that she had no innate talent to refine pills, for it was fine as long as she had a Tier 4 pill master as her grandmaster in name. She would then be able to stand against Baiji in terms of might. This was Lan Xiaoun's true aim. In the Lan family residence, within the banquet hall, the announcement Crown Prince arrives turned the noisy banquet hall silent. Even he came. This Bai Yan had almost become his fiancée after all. Yet, because she had lost her virginity before marriage, she was disdained by the royal clan, and now that the crown prince had come, could it be that he was here to watch a joke? Lan Yu frowned slightly as he asked in a low voice, who sent the invitation to the crown prince's manor? The guard by his side carefully replied, I have already instructed that they are not allowed to send an invitation to the crown prince's manor. I reckon no one would dare to have sent it. If no one had sent an invitation, then why was he here? Lan Yu's expression was little ugly. He did not forget how great of a harm the royal clan had caused for Yan'er. Everyone said that the crown princess consort had given birth prematurely, but her premature birth was able to birth a healthy child. Perhaps only those foolish people would believe that. This B*****starredly couple had long had improper relations before Yan'er had left. Bairuo had long schemed to harm Yan'er for the sake of becoming the daughter-in-law of the royal clan. It was precisely so that Lan Yu did not purposely invite the crown prince to join the dinner banquet. He was fearful that he could not bear it and strangle him to death. Lan family head, you wouldn't blame me for coming without an invitation now, would you? Nangongyi opened his fan as he said with a smile while walking toward Lan Yu. I only heard that old Master Ian's sickness has been becoming more serious and had purposely taken the opportunity to visit. I wonder how long more old Master Lan has left to live. Lan Yu clenched his fist tightly as a sneer hung on his lips. My family's old master is very well. There is no need to trouble Crown Prince to care. It is just that the purpose of Crown Prince's arrival is too impure. Forgive me for being unable to serve you. The news of old master's recovery was only known by the people of the Lan family at that point, and it was not made known to outsiders. It was no wonder Nangongyi thought that the old master was extremely sick in bed and had only a few days left to live. Nangongyi heard Lan Yu's obvious eviction notice and frowned slightly. Just as he was about to open his mouth, another notice rang out from the door. Marquis Kang arrives. Marquis Kang. Lan Yu and Nangongyi's expressions were both stunned. This Marquis Kang had always been proud and aloof. He rarely interacted with those family clan forces. Even if the royal clan extended an invitation to a banquet, he would not necessarily attend. That was why Lan Yu intentionally did not send an invitation to Marquis Kang's manor. Now, he turned up uninvited to Bai Yan's welcoming banquet. What did this mean? Chapter 46. Chapter 46, Shockingly Stunning Eye. Within the banquet hall, the crowd's gaze all cast toward the outside of the gate. Bai Ji, who was originally by Bai Zhengxiang's side, also had her small face change in expression and her tone was a little angry as she said, "It is nothing more than a welcoming banquet for an unclean person. Why did Marquis Kang come too?" Although she was muttering softly, the whole banquet hall was quiet due to Marquis Kang's arrival. Therefore, her voice was very abrupt as it rang out in this quiet banquet hall. Lan Yu's face darkened as he coldly swept a glance at Bai Ji before turning his line of sight toward the outside of the door. At this moment, everyone, including Lan Yu, was shockingly stunned. In the deep dark of the night, a bright moon hung high in the sky. Enveloped by the moonlight, a few silver wolves carried a throne as they flew across the sky like a ray of light that shot over at high speed and smashed into the middle of the banquet hall with a rumble, scaring those people who were shockingly stunned to take a few steps backward. On the throne, the man's two arms lazily fell on the armrests of the chair as his body leaned against the back of the chair. Under the gentle breeze, his robe was half opened, revealing his chest that was so white that it was practically glowing. With a head of long silver hair, he was so devilishly handsome. His dashing, peerless face was covered in an extreme arrogance. If there was a sentence that could be used to describe his gaze, then it would be beneath his feet, all living beings are like ants, up to him to crush and exterminate. However, such a bloodthirsty, aloof, proud man was the dream lover of hundreds of thousands of young maidens. They clearly knew that they were no more than moths drawn to a flame, yet they were willing to rush forward. Marquis. Lan Yu faced the man before him straight ahead and did not treat him as coldly as he did the crown prince. His tone was respectful as he said, "It is our Lan family's honor for you to be willing to join our Lan family's welcoming banquet. Servants, see to it that Marquis Kang is seated." Nangongyi saw Lan Yu's attitude toward Dikang and his expression was extremely ugly. He was after all a true member of the royal clan, while this Dikang was merely a marquis of a different surname. In the end, Lan Yu treated him so respectfully and yet had given himself an eviction order. Dikang stood up from the throne. The moment he stood up, the silver wolvers behind him who were carrying the throne quickly left, leaving behind a light in the sky. Everyone's breath hitched as they looked in the direction of which the silver wolves left, unable to regain their senses for a long while. Those were demon beasts. They had long known that Marquis Kang's cultivation was very strong, but they had never thought that this group of demon beasts would be willing to stay at Marquis Kang's manor to carry his seed. I have only heard that the Lan family is organizing a welcoming banquet for a person of the Bai family. Dikang's phoenix eyes swept past Lan Yu as his voice was arrogant and aloof. Therefore, I am merely curious as to why the Lan family has organized this banquet for a person of the Bai family. Marquis. Without waiting for Lan Yu to open his mouth, Bai Zhenxiang immediately stepped forward as his face carried a hint of helplessness. You do not know about this matter, but my Bai family have treated this daughter, Bai Yan, so well to the point of tearing out our hearts and lungs. My wife also treats her like a biological daughter. However, she is an ungrateful white-eyed wolf. I had merely said a few sentences to her when she announced that she wanted to cut off all father-daughter relations with me and thus return to the Lan family. Hearing Bai Zhengxiang's words, the crowd's expressions turned angry. This Bai Yan is truly a white-eyed wolf. Back then, she eloped with someone, causing Madame Bai to be so sad while old Madame Yu even fainted due to heartache. Now, merely because of a few sentences of discipline, she would not even acknowledge her father. If I had such a daughter, I would definitely strangle her to death. Madame Bai is truly too kind. I heard that she had treated Bai Yan as her own biological daughter from a young age. Even her own two daughters had to make way. I would never have thought that doing good does not beget kindness, and she has actually raised such a white-eyed wolf. Chapter 47. Chapter 47, This is the kind that I like. Hearing these people's false accusations, Lan Yu was unable to suppress the anger within his heart as he shouted in a burst of anger, "All of you, shut up!" The crowd quietened down, shocked by Lan Yu's sudden roar of anger. "You all said that Yanner eloped with someone, but is there any evidence?" he said with a sneer. "Empty words without evidence. What rights do you all have to wrongly accuse little Yanner? All of you say that she was unclean before marriage, but besides Bairuo, who else had seen her? All of you say that she got pregnant before marriage, but it was also news that the Bai family had spread. From what I think, Bairuo lied about Yanner's previous fiancé, who is the current crown prince, and had purposely framed Yanner." Lan Yu. Bai Zhenxiang angrily said. "What do you mean? I came over to join your Lan family's banquet out of a kind heart. Why are you framing my daughter instead? Ruo Er's character is upright. Why is there a need for her to use such methods to obtain the crown prince? From what I see, only Bai Yan could do such things." "Daughter." The smile that hung on Lan Yu's lips contained sarcasm. It seems like in Bai Zhengxiang's eyes, only the sisters, Bai Ruo and Bai Ji, were truly his daughters. "Lan family head, your actions are indeed a little over the top." Nangongyi frowned as his expression was very ugly. Previously, Ruo Er had also told me that with Bai Yan's malicious character, she would definitely push the blame onto Ruo Er. Seems like from how things are today, Ruo Er's words were not wrong. You are the only one who would believe this woman's nonsense. Lan Yu clenched his fist tightly. Just as he was about to open his mouth, he suddenly heard a light cough. When the crowd looked over in the direction where they heard the cough, they saw old Master Lan dressed in brocade walking over under the clear moonlight, surrounded by a group of people. "Father!" Lan Yu suppressed the anger within his heart as he walked over to old Master Lan and respectfully cupped his fists. "Cough cough. Welcome to all for participating in my granddaughter's welcoming banquet." Old Master Lan coughed twice as his sharp eyes glanced all around. When he saw Dikang, he was obviously stunned as he immediately turned his gaze toward Lan Yu. That gaze was questioning, as if asking why he was there. Lan Yu looked at old Master Lan and shook his head. He also did not know why Dikang had come. "Old Master Lan, your body," a flash of surprise appeared in Nangongyi's gaze. It was uncertain what his heart was thinking. Bai Zhenxiang was already unable to suppress his emotions as he glared at old Master Lan with great fury in his eyes. "Why is this old fella not dead yet? No, it should be said, how is it possible for him to have gotten out of the bed? Wasn't it said that his sickness was so bad that it was hard to recover?" Under the surprised gazes of the crowd, old Master Lan walked toward Dikang as a smile appeared on his old face. "It is truly my greatest honor to have Marquis Kang join us at our Lan family banquet." Dikang looked down at old Master Lan from up above as his attitude was cold and proud, his voice a little cold. "I am merely curious as to who this Bai Yan, who managed to be so infamous in the entire Luhuo kingdom, is." He thought of the news that his guards heard and narrowed his phoenix eyes slightly. "Lost her virginity 6 years ago, getting pregnant before marriage. Good. Very good." He really wanted to see how long this woman could continue to keep her mouth stubborn. The corners of Dikang's mouth curled up into a bloodthirsty smile. His purple robe lifted without a hint of wind, he was so strong that, those surrounding him were unable to breathe. Old Master Ian's heart thumped. Could it be that Yanner had unknowingly provoked this bloodthirsty marquis? Chapter 48. Chapter 48, This is the kind that I like too. Marquis. Seeing the undisguised anger in Dikang's eyes, Bai Ji felt a jolt of happiness in her heart. She stood up from her chair and looked bashful. Although Bai Yan got pregnant before getting married and eloped with a wild man, we, the Bai family, would never perform such shameless acts like her. She did not wish for Dikang to lump her and Bai Yan together. This would be too much of a disadvantage to her chances of entering Marquis Kang's manor. The funny thing was Bai Ji had thought too much. This was because Dikang did not even know who she was. A wild man. Dikang cackled. Bai Ji did not notice Dikang's darkened expression as she nodded and continued. 6 years ago, Bai Yan hooked up with a wild man and was caught red-handed by my second elder sister. Who knew that she would end up eloping with that wild man? Oh. Dikang raised his brow as his voice carried a ruthlessness. Then you are saying that you all have seen this wild man before? When he said the words wild man, Dikang purposely said with a heavy tone as a red gleam of bloodthirstiness flashed in his phoenix eyes. Even Bai Ruo had never seen that man before, not to mention Bai Ji. However, at this moment, in order to affirm the matter of Bai Yan losing her virginity, she naturally could not say this. Of course I've met him before. That wild man does not even look as handsome as His Highness, the Crown Prince. I don't even know if Bai Yan's heart was covered in lard to have actually hooked up with such a disgusting man. At this moment, Bai Ji only cared about falsely accusing Bai Yan, yet she totally did not notice Dikang's aura, which was getting gloomier and colder. Just at this moment, a mocking sound rang from over the hall, almost making Bai Ji jump in anger. I had just been wondering why the banquet hall was covered in dark smoke. Turns out you've come. Dad, why did you allow such a despicable person to enter? She really causes the whole Lan family residence to stink. Lan Xiaoyun had just entered the banquet hall when she saw Bai Ji, who had stood up within the hall. Instantly, enemies meeting fueled the flame as her anger could not help but started burning. At this moment, everyone's line of sight fell on the woman who had entered the banquet hall together with Lan Xiaoyun. The beauty of the world, peerless and incomparable. In the night wind, her hair fluttered with the wind. The lady who was dressed in bright red, which made her look stunningly beautiful, swept past the crowd. The lady's face was very beautiful. It was so beautiful that it could cause all living beings to lose their color. With a pair of soul-hooking eyes and a small smile that was so gentle, it was as if there was a kind of magic that would cause one's heart to stop beating. Nangongyi's eyes were just about to pop out of his head. Back then, Bai Yan also had the potential to be the number one beauty, but her figure was scrawny. Compared to the current her, the difference was just like clouds and mud. If one were to say that she was the number one beauty back then she must be the one and only beauty not found anywhere else in the heavens and on earth now. Bai Ji saw that all the men's line of sight were firmly stuck on Bai Yan's body and she gritted her teeth in envy and hatred. Even the two hands by her sides were tightly clenched. Especially. Seeing Dikang's gaze also turning toward Bai Yan, Bai Ji felt as if ants were gnawing at her heart. It was so painful to the point of being uncomfortable. Marquis, she gnashed her teeth and said, she is my eldest sister, Bai Yan. She is also the woman who lost her virginity 6 years ago. Bai Ji was purposely reminding Dikang that Bai Yan was no longer a virgin. How was such a woman who did not love herself worthy to be taken note by him? Marquis. Bai Yan frowned slightly and swept a probing gaze around. When she saw that devilishly handsome face, she was shocked to the point words left her mouth unknowingly. Why are you here? As to why this Marquis is here, could it be that you are not clear? Chapter 49. Chapter 49, This is the kind that I like. 3. The crowd was stupefied. Even Bai Yan herself was stunned. This man called himself this Marquis. Could it be that he was the different surnamed Marquis Dikang of Luhuo Kingdom? While thoughts were swirling within her, Dikang had already walked toward her. Seeing the man approach, the Lan brothers subconsciously wanted to pull Bai Yan behind them, but the man managed to drag her over to his side first. His arm held Bai Yan's waist tightly as his phoenix eyes narrowed slightly with a hint of threatening within. He gnashed his teeth as he said, "You really made me search hard." The man was saying that all these years, he had been looking all around for this woman who had raped him. Who knew that this woman was just within Lu Huo Kingdom? However, when this sentence fell into the ears of others, it became a different meaning altogether. Get lost. Bai Yan was angered and used her foot to stomp at the man's foot. Just as her foot was about to step down, it was ruthlessly caught by a large hand. The man's slender fingers were touching her thigh, making her goosebumps appear. Your little foot is really too restless. The corner of Dick Hang's lips raised into a bloodthirsty, cruel smile. Tell me, should I cut it off or cut it off? The tone of his threat was very soft. When it entered the ears of others, it became like a little squabble between lovers. Bai Ji looked at Dick Hang's evil smile on his face and the rim of her eyes turned red as tears silently fell. Ji-er. Bai Zhenxiang saw Bai Ji quietly shedding tears and his heart was in pain. Soon, he turned an anger gaze toward Bai Yan. Bai Yan, what are you doing in front of an audience? Do you still care about your reputation at all? Bai Yan's gaze sank as she swept a glance at Bai Zhenxiang and Bai Ji. When she saw Bai Ji's envious look full of hatred, her eyes flashed slightly as a smile hung on her peerless face. Aren't you very clear of what we are doing? Bai Yan raised her brows provocatively as her slender finger gently touched Dick Hang's chin. Little Kang Kang, tell me, am I right? Little Kang Kang. This address made the corners of Dick Hang's mouth obviously twitch. Bai Yan's sudden change of attitude had piqued his interest. Dick Hang held the finger Bai Yan used to tease him as he turned his head to look at Bai Zhenxiang, who had an ugly look on his face. Could it be that the Bai family head is blind? Can't you tell what I am doing? Dad. Just look at her. Bai Ji's face was a deathly white. Her eyes were full of tears as her gaze, which had envy and hatred, glared at Bai Yan as she angrily said, she must be doing it on purpose. That's right, Bai Yan was indeed doing it on purpose. In order to anger Bai Ji, she had even sacrificed her beauty. How would it be possible that her aim had not been achieved? Marquis. Bai Zhenxiang suppressed the anger within his heart as he lowered his head and faced Dick Hang. You are also clear about the discussions about my eldest daughter. She had lost her virginity before marriage and had gotten pregnant before marriage. She had long lost the purity of her body. I am not willing for Marquis to be cheated and thus, am purposely inform Marquis. Bai Zhengxiang's words thoroughly angered the masses of the Lan family. He made Bai Ruo substitute Bai Yan and even chased Bai Yan out of the family. Forget that all. But now, he was even purposely slandering Bai Yan before the Marquis. What is still something that a father should do? Just as old Master Lan was about to fight with Bai Zhenxiang with a face full of anger, Dick Hang's slightly cold voice slowly rang out. So what? This is the kind that I like. The crowd had their eyes pop out of their heads and mouths agape. This was the kind he liked. So to say, the Marquis had a fetish and actually liked young wives. Goodness! It was no wonder so many outstanding young maidens of Lu Huo Kingdom were unable to catch Dick Hang's eye. It was actually because Marquis Kang had such a fetish. Chapter 50. Chapter 50, Be obedient, don't move. Bai Ji's eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at Dick Hang. Marquis Kang likes Bai Yan, this kind of woman who lost her virginity before marriage? Could it be, that in order to snatch the love of Marquis Kang, she had purposely found a man to have improper relations with? 2. Yan'er. Old Master Lan had already regained his senses from his shock as he frowned slightly. The relationship between Marquis Kang and you is. Based on accounts, this Marquis Kang was not a womanizer and was bloodthirsty in nature. If his own granddaughter was really related to him, then whether it was a bad thing or a good thing was unknown. Dick Hang lowered his gaze to look at the woman who was held tightly in his embrace as the corner of his lips curled up into a mysterious smile. It is the relationship just as all of you have witnessed. Old Master Lan felt as if his heart was beating so fast that it could not stop, scaring him that he went into shock. The relationship just as all of them had seen. Could it be, that Marquis Kang was the one who had taken Yanner's innocence back then? No. From their expressions, it did not seem to be so. Bai Yan, you had better come back here. Bai Zhenxiang slowly regained his senses and shouted loudly. Bai Yan raised her brows and smiled slightly. What rights do you have to order me? You, Bai Zhenxiang was so angry that he pointed at Bai Yan. You are my daughter. Hearing this, Bai Yan laughed sarcastically. Daughter? You acknowledge me as your daughter only at a time like this? Then what about all these years? She slapped away Dikang's hand and slowly walked over to Bai Zhenxiang. Dikang frowned but did not make a move. His arrogant face slowly raised as a demonic ray of light appeared in his phoenix eyes. You, Bai Zhenxiang, say that I am a white-eyed wolf. Could it be that you are not a disappointing man? She stopped as a cold gleam flashed in her eyes. Back then, if it were not for the Lan family contributing so many pills and my mother's silly mistake, would you have your successes today? Rebellious daughter. Bai Zhenxiang raised his hand, just about to send a slap toward Bai Yan. Bai Yan's eyes turned cold. When Bai Zhenxiang's hands reached just right before her eyes, she suddenly made a move and held Bai Zhenxiang's wrist tightly in place. You wish to beat me? A sneer hung on her face. What right do you have? After that, Bai Yan speedily raised her foot and sent a kick toward Bai Zhenxiang's chest, sending him flying out in an instant. 1. The whole banquet hall was in total silence. Compared to Bai Yan making a move to hit her own biological father, what made people care more about was that Bai Yan, this trash, had actually injured Bai Zhenxiang. This was illogical. Old Master Lan and the rest were angered by Bai Zhenxiang's incoming slap. However, they were not able to stop him in time before they were shocked by Bai Yan's subsequent actions. Since when did she have such strength? Great. You Bai Zhenxiang. Old Madame Lan was the first to regain her senses as she angrily pointed at Bai Zhenxiang as she said angrily. You actually dare to make a move against my Lan family's baby, Yanner. Old Master, what are you still stunned for? Beat this animal up for me. 1. Old Madame Lan was not lightly angered. Bai Zhenxiang dared to act in such a manner before them. Who knows how he bullied Bai Yan and Bai Xiao behind their backs. If it were not for Lan Shayan who was by the side helping her ease her fuming, the old madam would have been so angered that she could not have spoken steadily. Maternal grandfather, maternal grandmother, let me finish speaking first. Bai Yan sneered, and after stopping the people of the Lan family, she continued, back then, I did not wish to cause trouble and thus did not even say a word. The world thought that you wrong-treated me as her biological daughter, but have any of you ever seen me wear even a single piece of jewelry? The crowd was stunned as they looked at each other. The Bai Yan in their memories had always faced the world without any makeup and indeed never had a piece of jewelry. Chapter 51. Chapter 51, Be obedient, don't move too. You're talking nonsense. Bai Ji's face changed in color, but very quickly eased up. She used her gaze full of hatred to stare at Bai Yan. You were the one unwilling to wear those jewelry, and in the end, you are falsely accusing my mother of not giving you any. The corner of Bai Yan's lips curled into a smile as she swept a cold glance at Bai Ji's angry little face. Since that is the case, then maternal grandfather, bring out the dowry list you prepared for mother back then. According to the rules, if a mother passes away, her dowry is to be inherited by her biological sons and daughters. Now that I am of age, I am eligible to inherit her dowry. Men were allowed to marry 3 wives and 4 concubines, so things like loving the wife and killing concubines had also happened before. In order not to allow the wives' properties to fall into the hands of the sons and daughters of concubines, this was the rule that was put in place. Once the biological children of a wife was of age, the dowry needed to be passed on to the biological children to manage. Hearing this, Bai Zhenxiang and Bai Ji's expressions changed greatly. All right. Old Master Lan harumphed. All those dowry were filed in the etiquette department. At that time, I will ask them back from the Bai family according to the financial statements on the list. Bai Zhenxiang was very angry. Did Bai Yan, this rebellious hindrance, really wanted to find fault with him? The dowry had long been spent finished. Where on earth was he to bring them to her? 1. Bai Yan. Nangongyi could not continue watching and his hateful gaze turned to Bai Yan. Your father is the Bai family head. You had firstly attacked him and now you are still aggressively forcing him. Don't you feel that you are being too much? The Bai Yan back then had the body of trash, but her character was kind. Now, she was actually so arrogant, hateful, and was even muddled in messy waters with Marquis Kang. He was not bothered to take a second look at such a girl, no matter how beautiful. I am merely wanting back the dowry. How has it become aggressively forcing him? Could it be that Crown Prince does not acknowledge the rules our ancestors have put in place? Bai Yan indifferently swept a glance at Nangongyi, her tone cold. Nangongyi's handsome face turned livid. How would he dare to admit that he did not acknowledge the rules? However, thinking of Bai Yan's high and mighty attitude, he was extremely angered and reached a tipping point. Bai Yan, the Bai family head and Madame Bai have very trustworthy characters. Your mother's dowry is in their hands. They would definitely not simply use it. On the contrary, if the dowry was passed on to you, wouldn't it be just used by you to raise some other men, he said with gritted teeth. This sentence was also telling Dikang how wicked of a character Bai Yan was. Bai Yan laughed lightly. A B** who relied on a woman to build his family and then falling out without acknowledging the person who helped after building his family. Do you think his character is trustworthy? Bai Yan, since when have you become so calculative? Nangongyi shook his head in disappointment. Immediately kneel down and apologize to the Bai family head. Perhaps the Bai family head would forgive you for your faults. At this time, a large hand suddenly stretched out from behind and ruthlessly scoped Bai Yan into his embrace. That man's domineering, cold, and gloomy voice rang out in this quiescent banquet hall. There was a pin-drop silence. I never knew that my woman would reach a point of having to apologize to a small little ant. Nangongyi saw the man who was looking down at him and his expression instantly changed. Dikang, he gnashed his teeth as he said these two words angrily. Dikang raised his eyes to sweep a gaze at Nangongyi. With this gaze, suppression naturally formed. Nangongyi's face turned pale and he found it hard to breathe. Be obedient, don't move. Dikang felt the restlessness of the woman in his arms. He gripped her hand tightly and said in a low voice which only the two of them could hear, if your beautiful little hand was cut off, then it wouldn't be perfect anymore. Bai Yan was a little angry. This man either wanted to cut off her leg or her hand. Especially with this tone he used, it was as if he was placating a small pet. Chapter 52. Chapter 52, Face-slapping eye. Nangongyi looked at the woman who was brought into Dikang's arms and not knowing why, he felt unhappy in his heart. Bai Yan. He opened his mouth and wanted to speak, but was interrupted by that woman's small laugh. You seriously don't want to return my mother's dowry? Her gaze had never once stopped on Nangongyi's face from the beginning to the end. Bai Zhenxiang thought about how he had been kicked by Bai Yan earlier on and he felt extremely angry in his heart. Your mother is my late wife and is furthermore buried within the graves of my Bai family. Thus, her dowry is the property of my Bai family. Why is there a need to give it to you? Furthermore, with Xiao around, no matter what, it will not reach your turn to inherit this dowry. That dowry was already more or less spent. He was practically unable to bring it out. How was he to return it to her? Bai Yan's gaze chilled. If you don't hand over the dowry today, then I will definitely make you all return it back at a few fold more. Return. What a joke. Bai Zhenxiang sneered. Bai Yan, just now it was I who had not been guarded against you, which was why you had succeeded in sneaking an attack on me. What's funny is that you actually take it as if it had been your ability. The crowd went into an uproar. It turns out that Bai Yan was able to send Bai Zhenxiang flying was actually because Bai Zhenxiang was caught off guard. Otherwise, how could Bai Yan have injured Bai Zhenxiang with her cultivation abilities? However, Bai Zhenxiang's gaze turned a few degrees colder. As your father, you had attacked me. This is a great disrespect. I have the rights to chase you out of the Bai family. From today onward, you are no longer a member of the Bai family. 1. Although Bai Zhenxiang had said that he wanted to chase Bai Yan out of the family previously, that was merely in private. Now he had directly brought up this matter, the effect was also different. Very well. Old Master Ian's old and deep voice rang out after Bai Zhenxiang had finished speaking. His face was stern and his gaze was cold and sharp. If your Bai family does not want her, then my Lan family will take her in. From today onward, she will be a member of our Lan family and shall be included in our Lan family ancestral temple in the future. This Bai Zhenxiang had mistakenly taken a pearl as a fisheye. In the future, he would definitely regret for life. Just a mere piece of trash. If you want it then just take it. Bai Zhenxiang coldly swept a glance at Bai Yan and said sarcastically, don't blame me for not reminding you Lan family, this piece of trash only knows how to eat, drink, and be merry. She does not know anything else. Your Lan family raising her is no different than raising an idle person. Lan Yu, who was originally standing quietly by old Master Ian's side, could not hold it in any longer and took a look at Bai Zhenxiang after hearing his self-opinionated words. Could it be that this fella does not know? Yanner's pets use pills like candies. 1. Just a single tier 4 pill could buy up the entire Bai family. Haha. Old Master Lan laughed out loud as a happiness could be heard within his laughter. Today, we have Crown Prince and Marquis Kang present. I shall invite the both of you to bear witness. After this, Yanner is no longer related whatsoever to the Bai family. She is also no longer a member of the Bai family. Nangongyi's face was not looking too good. Luhuo Kingdom placed emphasis on filial piety. The single word filial was enough to suppress someone to death. Indeed, even if Bai Zhenxiang had his faults, Bai Yan should have begged for his forgiveness when he was about to disown Bai Yan. It was just that, the Bai Yan of this moment was casually being held in Dikang's embrace with a look as if none of this was related to her. The first aim of her making maternal grandfather invite the Bai father-daughter duo over was to thoroughly cut all ties to the Bai family. I shall make a decision on this matter. Dikang raised his brows as he swept a glance at Bai Zhenxiang with his domineering, cold gaze as his red lips had a bloodthirsty arc. If anyone dares to ignore my orders, I don't mind breaking their legs. Chapter 53. Chapter 53, Face Slapping 2. Bai Zhenxiang's heart stopped as he angrily spat out a sentence. Could it be that I would regret breaking off my relationship with her after this? My Bai family has never raised idle people. I hope that you can do as you say. In the future, don't ever harass my granddaughter. Old Master Ian's expression turned cold. The moment he thought about all the treatment Bai Yan had endured throughout her years in the Bai family, the anger in his heart could not help but rush outward. Maternal grandfather. Bai Yan struggled to escape Dikang's embrace and she glared at him before walking over to old Master Lan with a smile. A short while ago, you had just celebrated your 60th birthday. Since I was unable to make it back in time, I purposely prepared a precious gift for you this time. Precious gift. Baiji, who was by the side, found an opportunity as she looked at Bai Yan sarcastically. I really don't know why somebody is just so thick-skinned and shameless. With a mere little gift, she dares to call it a precious gift. Ever since she had been framed by Bai Xiaochen, Bai Ji directly acted as she liked, no longer acting like she had in the past to maintain her image. Furthermore, she had long hated Bai Yan down to the bone. Naturally, she said whatever she wanted to. Bai Yan ignored Bai Ji as she said with a smile. "Maternal grandfather, you would definitely like this precious gift." Just as old Master Lan was still wondering what Bai Yan was about to give him, he saw the woman before him whistle. Instantly, a bird's call could be heard from the night skies, just like a bright red sun, leaving a deep trace in the dark night. What is this?" Everyone in the banquet hall saw a flash of light rushing down from the night sky and their faces were full of surprise. They were unable to take their eyes off that flash of light. Until that light slowly approached them. It was a very beautiful fire bird, its blood-red feathers were like flames, burning under the night sky. Its eyes were jade green and translucent, like a green agate, very shockingly stunning. That fire bird's call was pleasant to the ears, just like a song of melodious music. Nangongyi's gaze darkened. Demon Beast Fury Flame Fire Phoenix. Demon Beast Fury Flame Fire Phoenix. The crowd widened their eyes in astonishment. Perhaps they could not understand why a demon beast would appear here. Of course, they did not associate this demon beast with Bai Yan's whistle. "Dad, this bird is really beautiful." Beautiful things were absolutely irresistible to women. Bai Ji was momentarily unable to avert her gaze as she tugged at Bai Zhengxiang's sleeve. "Catch it for me, all right." Bai Zhengxiang's expression was very ugly to watch. First, without even a need to mention the level of this demon beast, just based on the identity of this demon beast, it was one that he could not control. Up to date, only the demon beast sect had the ability to control beasts. Dikang held his chin up while looking down and said with a poker face, "Do you have the qualifications to make a heaven-tier demon beast submit to you?" This was the first sentence Dikang said to Bai Ji, and logically speaking, Bai Ji should be extremely excited. However, his tone had a high up, distant feeling that made Bai Ji's little face pale slightly. "Dad." Bai Ji's eyes were teary as she called out, aggrieved. Bai Zhenxiang sighed lightly. Marquis Kang isn't wrong. Demon beasts are arrogant in nature and would not submit to humankind. However, why did this demon beast appear here? Even the rest of the people could not understand, not to mention Bai Zhenxiang. How strong was a heaven-tier demon beast? Old Master Lan and Bai Zhenxiang were merely at heaven tier and they had already entered the top-notch prestigious families. Chapter 54. Chapter 54, Face Slapping 3. So what if it is a heaven tier demon beast? Daddy, you are also at heaven tier, why can't you take it down? Bai Ji pursed her lips, her eyes that landed on the Fury Flame Fire Phoenix unable to move away. If she was able to control such a beautiful demon beast, the people of the entire Luhuo kingdom would definitely admire her to the extreme. "Ji, stop kicking a fuss." Bai Zhenxiang did not indulge her like he had in the past. His face darkened as said, "This heaven-tier demon beast is not one we can control. Don't you speak words that would anger it?" Bai Ji was a little sad as tears filled her eyes. She bit the bottom of her lip hard, looking at that beautiful fire phoenix with reluctance. The Fury Flame Fire Phoenix let out a low cry and slowly walked over to Bai Yan. Its footsteps were very elegant, its feathers luxurious and beautiful. Meanwhile, that pair of jade green eyes were shimmering a jade green light. Everyone's gaze moved along with the Fury Flame Fire Phoenix. Until, it stopped in front of Bai Yan. "Maternal grandfather." Bai Yan swept a glance at the Fury Flame Fire Phoenix before retracting her gaze. She looked at old Master Ian's astonished expression and gave a light chuckle. "I'm not sure if you like this gift of mine." The whole banquet hall fell into silence. It was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Old Master Ian's line of sight slowly moved to Bai Yan's face as his tone carried hesitation. "The gift you are talking about is..." It wouldn't be this fury flame fire phoenix, would it? No. Impossible. In that moment, everyone had the same thought, but they ruthlessly shoved it back down. Who was Bai Yan? She was merely a piece of trash who had gotten pregnant before marriage. Just based on her ability, how could she conquer a heaven-tier demon beast? Bai Yan raised her brows as she swept a glance over. Under her gaze, that fury flame fire phoenix lowered its proud head and lay itself down before old Master Lan. This was the customs of the Fire Phoenix clan. If the Phoenix clan was willing to serve a person, they would willingly lay themselves down before him, evidencing that itself was willing to be his mount. Bai Ji rubbed her eyes hard and widened her eyes as she looked at the fury flame fire phoenix before Bai Yan in astonishment. Her pretty little face turned slightly deathly white as the bottom of her lip almost broke under the pressure of her teeth. Lan Yu's breathing was a little nervous. This fury flame fire phoenix is the gift you are giving your maternal grandfather. This was not some other demon beast, but a heaven-tier fury flame fire phoenix. It was a heaven-tier demon beast that even only a few people in the demon beast sect were able to tame. If the Lan family were to obtain this fury flame fire phoenix, it was equivalent to the Lan family once again stepping into the lead amongst the top-notch prestigious families. Bai Yan hummed in agreement. Old Master's age is quite advanced and moving around isn't too convenient. Thus, I've prepared a fury flame fire phoenix for him. With this, he doesn't have to walk on his own when he leaves the house. Everyone's breath hitched as the corner of their lips twitched a couple of times. Age is quite advanced, moving around is not too convenient. This old master is a healthy red and looks so majestic. Where is the not too convenient to be found? Furthermore, don't you think that using a fury flame fire phoenix as a mount is too extravagant? 1. Dad. Bai Ji saw the fury flame fire phoenix lying before old Master Lan, jealousy and envy almost contorting her face. Didn't you say that heaven-tier beasts are very proud? Why would it actually submit to a piece of trash like Bai Yan? Bai Zhengxiang's face darkened. He ignored Bai Ji's words as his gaze coldly looked at Bai Yan. Were you doing it on purpose? Purposely hiding this heaven-tier demon beast away and scheme to make me kick you out of the Bai family? 1. Chapter 55. Chapter 55, Face Slapping 4. If he had known beforehand that there was a heaven-tier spirit beast in her hands, then he would not have chased her out of the Bai family no matter what. As long as she belonged to the Bai family, then no matter what kind of treasures were in her hands, the first one she had to show filial piety and respect to was him, Bai Zhenxiang. What was the Lan family even considered? 1. However, just after he had determined that she was no longer a member of the Bai family, this little brat had actually brought out a heaven-tier demon beast. This was clearly slapping him in the face. Scheme. Bai Yan swept a glance at Bai Zhenxiang. Are you even worth it? You. Bai Zhengxiang's heart was full of anger and he wanted to vent his anger, but he suddenly saw the fury flame fire phoenix which had settled down before old Master Lan. His eyes gleamed for a moment and his expression eased up. Yan'er, Daddy was just kidding with you just now. No matter what, you are still Daddy's daughter. How could I really be willing to give you up? At this moment, Nangongyi had also regained his senses. Hearing Bai Zhengxiang's words, he looked at Bai Yan with a complicated gaze. It is still best that a family remains harmonious and at peace. Since Bai family had decided to forgive Bai Yan, then I, Crown Prince, shall decide on this. The words said just now shall be nullified. In reality, Nangongyi did not understand why he had done it. It was just that he suddenly noticed that the current Bai Yan, as compared to the person she had been 6 years ago, had too much of a difference. It was just that the current Bai Yan no longer had her eyes on him anymore. This knowledge made Nangongyi feel very uncomfortable within his heart. What made him even more unhappy was that what did this different surnamed Marquis have to act so domineering before him? Suddenly, a deep voice rang out from behind him, its domineering aura reaching the skies. Looks like you all did not take my words seriously. The man's voice was a little cold, yet it made Bai Zhengxiang's face turn white. Just now, he had actually forgotten about Dick Kang, this scary man. Dad, I want that Fury Flame Fire Phoenix, Bai Ji said coquettishly as she tugged at Bai Zhengxiang's sleeve. Make her give me the Fire Phoenix, all right. Bai Zhengxiang's heart softened and he raised his head to look at the devilish handsome man who had silver hair and was dressed in purple. Marquis, this is still after all, a matter of my Bai family, you. Before he managed to finish speaking, he was interrupted by a sneer. When you wish to kick me out of the house, then you can just kick me out. When you want me to return, then I would have to return. What do you treat me, Bai Yan, as? Bai Yan slightly raised her black eyes which were filled with coldness. You open your mouth and say that you are my father, but all these years, have you ever carried out your duties as a father? She slowly walked toward Bai Zhenxiang, various memories appearing in her mind. Those were not her past, but rather they were what was left behind by the original owner. However, when she thoroughly integrated with the body of the original owner, she was actually able to feel what this body felt. All these years, you had all dominated the possession of my mother's dowry, yet made me and Xiao not even have 3 full meals a day. Although I was timid, in my extreme hunger, I went to look for you. And what did you do? You believed you wrong deeply and did not even investigate the matter before directly chasing me out. Yan'er. Old Master Lan felt himself choking up a little, but what he felt even more deeply was anger. How much suffering exactly did his granddaughter endure at the Bai family? He had actually no idea all these years. Back then, I was young and did not know how to prove myself. If you don't believe me, you can go to the Bai family kitchen and interrogate them sternly. Bai Zhenxiang was stunned. It was not as if he had not once had feelings toward Bai Yan and Bai Xiao, but just that every time, Yurong cried and complained before him how immature and willful these 2 siblings were and how they treated her badly. After some time, he started getting angry at these siblings. However, all these years, he had never once sought for proof. 1. Dad, don't listen to her nonsense. Bai Ji was a little anxious as she ruthlessly glared at Bai Yan, immediately explaining, she simply wants to alienate us from each other. Chapter 56. Chapter 56, Go and do something big. Ji, let's go back first. Bai Zhengxiang's face flashed with an obscure light as he coldly said. Bai Yan, if I find out that you are lying to me, then I will definitely not forgive you. Let's go. Leaving behind the sentence, he dragged Bai Ji, who was still reluctant to leave, and walked out of the Lan manor. This B***starred Bai Zhenxiang really thought that I was sick and therefore can do whatever he likes. Old Master Lan was quite badly angered as his anger was about to reach the heavens. Also you, don't think that I will just forgive you just because you gave me a Fury Flame Fire Phoenix. Bai Yan had just retracted her gaze when she heard Old Master Ian's words. She was stunned and rooted to her spot. Maternal grandfather, what have I done wrong again? Old Master Lan glared at her. You were not even able to have a full meal, but why didn't you come to the Lan family? Am I still even your maternal grandfather? Is your mother not my daughter? You just had to let the Bai family bully you. Bai Yan was being lectured by Old Master Lan and she did not dare speak a word. Could it be she was to tell the Old Master that she was not the Bai Yan back then? Lan Yu. Old Master Lan let out an angry roar, scaring Lan Yu so much that he anxiously ran over half kneeling before him. Dad, what instructions do you have? A flattering smile was on his face as he carefully asked. Old Master Lan angrily pointed at him. After I fell sick, I passed the Lan family to your care. Is this how you look after your younger sister's daughter? Why didn't you check on her situation in the Bai family? Lan Yu said aggrievedly, Mother had sent people over to pick up Yan'er, but Yanner did not wish to trouble the Lan family and so, did not return. Old Master Lan was so angered that words momentarily left him. If she did not return, then didn't you know how to inquire a little more about her situation? Ever since Lan Yu passed away, the old master was lying in his sickbed and the Lan family was left entirely in Lan Yu's care. All these years, from the beginning to the end, he had thought that Bai Zhenxiang would be grateful toward the Lan family and therefore treat Bai Yan and Bai Xiao. However, he had never thought that the two siblings had to endure so much suffering. Why are you still being stunned here? Old Master Lan angrily sent a kick over. Are you still not going to make preparations? From today onward, there will not be a Bai family in this Luhuo kingdom as long as my Lan family is around. With this change in Lan family, it made the people in the banquet hall once again start to weigh which side to stand on. Back then, the Lan family had plunged into decline because old Master Lan had fallen sick. Bai Zhenxiang had even climbed over their heads. But now, old Master Lan was not only alive and well but he had even gotten a heaven-tier demon beast and instantly returned to the top of the top-notch prestigious families. However, the Bai family had a daughter who was the crown princess consort and this was something Lan Manor could not compete against. Despite Dikang showing interest in Bai Yan, with his identity, it was impossible that he would marry an unclean non-virgin. The royal family also would definitely not allow such a scandal to happen. Furthermore, they had hearsay that His Majesty seemed to be interested in letting the youngest daughter of the Bai family to marry into Marquis Kang's manor. Yanner, where did you get this fury flame fire phoenix? The old madam held Bai Yan's hand as she asked with a smile. Bai Yan hummed and said, back then, I saved its life and it just followed me since then. It's just nice, I just brought it over to give it to maternal grandfather. The crowd heard this and was suddenly enlightened. It was true too with Bai Yan's cultivation, how could she have tamed a heaven-tier demon beast? Furthermore, they had long heard that demon beasts were easily grateful. Since she had saved it once and obtained its loyalty, this was somewhat understandable and made sense. Elder cousin's sister. Lan Xiaoun happily approached and tugged at Bai Yan's arm as she said coquettishly, my birthday is just around the corner. Can you give me a demon beast you saved as well? Chapter 57. Chapter 57, Go and do something big too. Bai Yan did not even think about it before nodding. Alright, what demon beast do you want? A fox. I like foxes. They're flurry and very cute. Fox. Easy. Bai Yan smiled widely. When the time comes, I'll get a few foxes for you to choose from. There were too many foxes by Chen's side. When the time comes, she could just directly order them to come over and let her choose as she likes. However, when heard by others, this sentence made it seem as if Bai Yan was truly being too arrogant. What did she think demon beasts were? Cabbages bought from supermarkets? She had actually even said that there were several for her to choose from. After hearing Bai Yan's words, only Dikang's phoenix eyes narrowed and the corner of his lips hooked up into a bloodthirsty arc. When Bai Yan had just finished speaking, she felt a cold gaze from behind her and her heart instantly thumped. Finished. How could she forget that this guy was still around? Foxes. Just as Bai Yan was thinking of a counter-strategy, the man had already appeared behind her. The man had his lips to her ears as a cold warmth made her whole body break out in goosebumps. I also anticipate these foxes a lot. Bai Yan's face changed slightly and just as she was about to speak, she saw a group of silver foxes carrying a throne speedily approaching from the vast void, landing before Dikang with a thud. Dikang waved his sleeve and left, taking big strides to sit on the throne. And then, he disappeared into the quiet night. Elder cousin's sister, how do you know Marquis Kang? Lan Xiaoun was very excited and her expression was a little cheeky. That despicable person, Baiji, keeps on dreaming about becoming Marquis Kang's wife? Seeing her being forced to admit defeat is truly too wonderful. Especially just now when Dikang had embraced Bai Yan, Lan Xiaoun actually felt that the two of them really matched each other. Uncle, Xiao didn't come to today's welcoming banquet, did he? Bai Yan looked at Lan Yu and asked. Lan Yu was stunned and nodded. That's right, he didn't appear. Lan Yan frowned slightly. Based on Bai Xiao's character, he would not miss out on such an important event. Could it be that something had happened? Uncle, send someone over to the Bai family to inquire on Xiao's situation. I still have other things to do. All right, Lan Yu nodded. What do you want to do? A somewhat wicked smile appeared on Bai Yan's face. She turned her head to look at Lan Xiaoun and said, do you want to go and do something big with me? Lan Xiaoun happily said. My favorite is doing something big. Elder cousin's sister, let's go quickly. Let's go. Bai Yan held Lan Xiaoun's hand and quickly disappeared into the night. The sky had already turned dark. In the streets of the dark night, Bai Ji angrily kicked her foot against a stone. The moment she thought of Dikang's protection toward Bai Yan, her heart felt like it was being gnawed by many ants. She was so jealous and envious that she was about to go mad. Just at this moment, she suddenly saw a figure standing up ahead under the moonlight. The moonlight caused her shadow to elongate, as the person smiled and stared at her. Bai Yan. With the light of the moon, Bai Ji took a clear look at that stunning face and she gritted her teeth in hatred. Why are you here? You should not be concerned about why I am here. Instead, you should be concerned as to whether you can return home unharmed. Bai Yan slowly walked toward Bai Ji with a very wide smile, so wide that it made Bai Ji's heart shudder. Bai Yan, what do you want to do? Seeing that smile, Bai Ji felt her heart increasingly panic. Not knowing why, she actually felt a sense of terror rising from deep within her when facing this piece of trash. Chapter 58. Chapter 58, Bai Ji takes a beating. Just right at this moment, a muffled sound came from up above her head. Bai Ji only felt her head being ruthlessly hit by a stick and her head felt dizzy and she almost crashed to the ground. She touched the front of her forehead and her hand was covered in a sticky fluid. After seeing a trace of blood in the palm of her hands under the light from the moon, Bai Ji's face instantly contorted as she angrily said, Who dares attack me? And then, Bai Ji had just turned around when the stick behind her fell again, ruthlessly knocking onto her shoulder. Bai Ji, you despicable person. You are the one I'm beating up. Under the moonlight, the young maiden had a head of beautiful hair and both her hands tightly clenched around a long stick. There was an obvious excitement on her pretty and cute little face. It's you. When she saw Lan Xiaoun who had appeared behind her, Bai Ji's eyes turned bloodshot. You are just a loser. Besides a sneak attack, what other abilities do you have? Loser? Are you talking about me? Lan Xiaoun played with the long stick in her hands. A few days ago, if it were not for the fact that you had helpers, would I have lost to you? This insidious, sneaky person could not defeat her and had gone to find helpers to fight with her. With her two fists, it was hard to fight against the many legs and she was thus wounded by that group of people. Who would have known that Bai Ji, that wicked person, would even go to report on her first and the Bai family even had the cheek to come to the Lan family residence to cause trouble. You know. Bai Yan released her arms that were crossed in front of her cheek as she faced the moonlight and slowly walked toward Lan Xiaoun. Today, no matter how you want to vent your anger, just do it. You have me in everything. At this moment, the woman in red was beautiful enough to topple cities. Her smile was full of dominance and tyranny. You too. Bai Ji angrily pointed at Bai Yan and Lan Xiaoun, but Lan Xiaoun's long stick once again ruthlessly fell and instantly, her pitiful howl spread throughout the place and reached the sky, sounding incredibly pitiful. Lan Xiaoun, you despicable person. She held her arm which was in pain as she angrily rushed toward Lan Xiaoun, baring her teeth and stretching her claws to rip into her face. Bai Yan, who originally had her back facing Bai Ji, turned around without any warning and her foot stretched forward ever so slightly. With a foot, she kicked at Bai Ji's chest and instantly, Bai Ji's body was sent flying backward, knocking into a tree up ahead, vomiting blood non-stop. Lan Xiaoyun saw Bai Ji's miserable look and gave out a happily as she speedily rushed to Bai Ji, who was lying on the ground. She directly sat on her and with a blow of her fist, she smashed it into her young maiden's face. Bai Ji, weren't you very arrogant a while back? If you have the guts, then crawl back up and fight me. Do you think you're so great just because you have helpers? I still have my elder cousin's sister. All these years, Lan Xiaoyun had been angered quite a bit by Bai Ji, and at this moment, she vented all the anger and grievances she had felt all these years, beating Bai Ji up so badly that she very quickly lost consciousness. Yunur, remember not to beat her to death. It's not the time for her to die yet. Bai Yan retracted her line of sight and looking into the dark night, she frowned slightly. It was already so long, it was about time that those people arrived. Just as she was thinking about this, a clear eagle cry could be heard, shocking Lan Xiaoyun that she quickly got up and asked nervously. Elder cousin sis, what happened? She opened her mouth and just as she was about to say this, she looked into the night sky and saw a huge eagle by the horizon, using the speed of lightning to stop right before Bai Yan. On that huge eagle was a very beautiful lady. Her hair fluttered in the night wind and her body was covered in a peach-red robe. Her smile was bright and brilliant and her attitude amorous. The first impression that this lady gave Lan Xiaoyun was that she was the old madam of a brothel. Chapter 59. Chapter 59, Phoenix House Owner Hualuo. Elder cousin sister, Lan Xiaoyun walked to Bai Yan's side as she tugged at her sleeve a little nervously as she carefully asked. Who is this woman? Is she here to seek you out? Bai Yan did not reply Lan Xiaoyun and instead gave the beautiful lady a faint smile. Hualuo, you seem to be late. Lililo. Hualuo jumped off the back of the eagle and gave a gentle laugh. I meet with a little bit of a situation on the way here and thus am a little late. However, master, is this your younger sister? She looks quite pretty, why don't you allow her to work at my Phoenix house? What do you think? 1. She winked and it was almost as if she could release sparks with her eyes, making Lan Xiaoyun feel goosebumps all over. Elder cousin sister, she angrily glared at Hualuo as she pursed her lips in an aggrieved manner. Who exactly is she? And Phoenix House is? Lan Xiaoyun had originally wanted to ask what Phoenix House was, but she suddenly reacted and opened her eyes wide, covering her little mouth with her hand in a deathly grip. Phoenix House. Could it be that Phoenix House she knew about? Hualuo, Yunur is still a child, you don't need to scare her. Bai Yan wasn't really angry. When she took Hualuo in, she had already known Hualuo's character. Furthermore, she was never one to suppress her subordinates' natures. Master, I am just kidding. Hualuo uttered tisk twice as she looked at Lan Xiaoyun's pretty little face with a smile. Even if I had more guts, I wouldn't dare allow master's younger cousin's sister to seduce those customers. On the surface, Phoenix House was a place where they received customers, but in reality, it was a news agency. To date, none of the forces were able to compete with the control of news and information as the Phoenix House did. Among all those strong forces in the mainland, it was not a secret. Only some ordinary people would not know of Phoenix House's true strength. Therefore, as the eldest miss of the Lan family, Lan Xiaoyun had long heard of this Phoenix House many times. Elder cousin sis, is she someone from Phoenix House? The actual Phoenix House. Lan Xiaoyun tugged at Bai Yan's sleeve as her lips trembled. Why is a person from Phoenix House calling you master? That's right, she is the owner of Phoenix House, Hualuo. Bai Yan did not deny this. Lan Xiaoyun was so agitated that she almost lost consciousness. Her own elder cousin's sister, who was known as the greatest humiliation in Luhuo Kingdom, was actually the master of Phoenix House's owner. Gosh, was there anything more explosive than this? Elder cousin sis, tell me quickly, how did you become the master of the owner of Phoenix House? Phoenix House's ability is totally able to fight against the royal family and flatten the entire Bai family. Lan Xiaoyun's face was red and she was so excited that she almost couldn't breathe. If this matter was made known to grandfather, it could be reckoned that he would directly faint from being overexcited. I'll tell you about this another day. Bai Yan smiled slightly before turning her gaze onto Huo Luo. There is something I need you to do this time with my return. Hearing Bai Yan talk about serious matters, Huo Luo immediately turned serious. Master, please give your orders. I suspect that my mother's death is not unrelated to you wrong. Now, go and check this out thoroughly. Besides, dig out for me everything that the Bai family has done over the years, including all of Yu Rong's actions. Bai Yan's gaze was cold and serious. Including, before Yu Rong married into the Bai family. Huo Luo raised her head in surprise, looking at Bai Yan's cold expression. The Bai family have done too many wrongdoings. Merely slaughtering them is hard to compensate for it. I want their name to be ruined, never to rise again forever. Chapter 60. Chapter 60, Little Fangirl. Yes, Master. Huo Luo lowered her head and said respectfully. Another thing, Bai Yan paused. Go and find a few people with good cultivation to enter the Bai family. Let them stay by Xiao's side to protect him. If anyone dares to make a move against him, there is no need to seek my instructions, just directly kill them. What if Bai Zhenxiang is the one who hurts Master Xiao? Huo Luo hesitated for a while before finally asking. Regardless of who it is, do the same. She wanted to investigate clearly if Yu Rong was related to her mother's death, and she also wanted the Bai family's reputation to be utterly ruined so they would live in regret for the rest of their lives. The prerequisite was that Bai Xiao would not be injured. If Bai Xiao was wounded, then she would rather directly take action and start a massacre. 1. This subordinate obeys. Huo Luo half knelt with respect in her tone. Since Bai Yan had spoken, this also proved that the good days of the Bai family was about to come to an end. Elder cousin's sister, Lan Xiaoyun, looked at Bai Yan giving orders, and for the first time, she noticed that her own elder cousin's sister was actually so dashing. Who would dare to call her elder cousin's sister trash in the future? You are not trash. Can you win over the owner of Phoenix House? What are you thinking about? A sharp voice rang out in front of Lan Xiaoyun, causing Lan Xiaoyun to regain her sense. She also said with a grin. I was thinking, if you, my elder cousin's sister, were a man, then I would definitely want to marry you. The corner of Bai Yan's lips twitched. Then, should I be grateful to my mother for not giving birth to me as a man? Elder cousin sis, you are too much. Lan Xiaoyun stomped her feet, then angrily went forward and took Bai Yan's arm. I don't care, in the future I will stick to you. Whatever good things you have, you aren't allowed to leave me behind. Bai Yan hummed in acknowledgement. She was already used to Bai Xiao's maturity and felt that having such a cute little sister was actually not too bad either. Thinking of Bai Xiao, Bai Yan's heart sank a little. The dinner banquet had been over for quite some time and she didn't even know how Bai Xiao was. Good thing she had notified Xiaomi beforehand and got Xiaomi to make a trip to the Bai family to see if Bai Xiao was unharmed. Yunur, let's make a trip to the Bai family. Bai Yan was still a little uneasy and planned to personally make a trip over. All right. Lan Xiaoyun's gaze swept past Bai Ji, who had fainted, and asked. Are we going to bring her along? A wicked smile appeared on Bai Yan's stunning face. We were just passing by and noticed an unconscious Bai Ji. Naturally, we have to send her back. After all, such a kind person as myself could not possibly ignore a dying person now, could I? Lan Xiaoyun was long stunned silly. Her eyes widened as she looked at Bai Yan's stunning face in shock. When did elder cousin's sister become so shameless? 1. Yuner. Bai Yan had just taken 2 steps when she stopped again. She went silent for a while. For now, don't tell anyone about matters regarding Phoenix House. Why? Lan Xiaoun looked at her in confusion. Not even grandfather and grandmother. Now is not the time for the forces in my hands to appear. Wait till the time is right, I will personally tell maternal grandfather and maternal grandmother. Bai Yan narrowed her eyes slightly. She definitely needed to settle the vengeance between herself and the Bai family, but now was not the time. Lan Xiaoun nodded in half understanding. Although I do not know why, I believe that what you do would definitely not be wrong. After she finished speaking, Bai Yan already walked further and further away. Lan Xiaoun also walked to Bai Ji's side and dragged her by her feet and moved onward. Clang dang clang dang. Bai Ji's head was knocking all over the place. The intense pain had knocked her awake, and just as she was about to shout out in anger, her head knocked into the corner of a stone by the side and she once again fainted over. 2. Chapter 61. 61 Little Chen are looking for uncle. In the Bai family's ancestral hall. Bai Su felt as if he was standing in a fire, and his body could not hold on any longer. He leaned against the wall behind him weakly. Xiaomi, uncle seems to be locked in this ancestral hall. Let's quickly go in and take a look. Outside the door, a young and tender voice came. Bai Su opened his mouth, but his throat was dry and he couldn't say a word. He was in great pain. Creak. The door of the ancestral hall was pushed open, and Bai Xiao's eyelids opened slightly. With the help of the bright moonlight outside, he saw Bai Xiaochen standing at the door. Bai Xiaochen had a small white cat in his arms. His small face was flushed red, and his eyes were very bright, even more beautiful than the stars in the night sky. Uncle. Seeing Bai Xiao, who had fallen to the ground, Bai Xiaochen hurriedly ran over to Bai Xiao's side with his short little legs. He stretched out his small hand and touched Bai Xiao's forehead, letting out a cry. Uncle, you're having a fever. Don't think that martial artists can't get sick. Their bodies are just stronger than the average person, but that doesn't mean they're immune to all diseases. I'm fine, Ching Ching. Bai Xiao's voice was very hoarse and dry. Perhaps he was afraid that Bai Xiaochen would be worried about him, and he forced a smile on his face. Chen why did you come here, Ching Ching? Mother was worried about uncle and asked Xiaomi to come and find you. However, Chen missed uncle and came along. Bai Xiaoqin's small hand kept on digging around in his embrace. He took out a pile of bottles and jars and patted his small head in annoyance. Chen has never learned medical skills from mother, so I don't know which one can cure the disease. Ever since he was young, he had only been interested in releasing poison. He had never learned any medical skills that could cure or save people. Why don't? Bai Xiaochen raised his head, his eyes shining. Uncle, you try both? This is Ching Ching. Bai Xiao lowered his head and looked at the bottles and jars in front of Bai Xiaochen, a hint of doubt in his eyes. Bai Xiaoqin's smile was very innocent and brilliant. It's Chen and Xiaomi's snacks. Mother prepared them for us. Snacks. Bai Xiao looked at Bai Xiaoqin's jade-like little face, and a warm current flowed through his heart. Uncle doesn't eat snacks. You guys can keep them for yourselves. Bai Xiaochen, who was originally full of smiles, revealed a disappointed look in his eyes when he heard this. Back then, the 3 grandmasters fought over Chen snacks. Chen thought that uncle would definitely like it. The corners of Bai Ling's mouth twitched. To fight over snacks, just how disrespectful were Chen 3 grandmasters, Lao Ai. Stupid little master. Xiaomi looked at Bai Xiaochen with disdain. Do you think that humans have the same physique as us and can eat these things as snacks? You actually let him try all of them? Aren't you afraid that he'll explode and die? Bai Xiaochen blinked his innocent eyes, his face filled with confusion. I'm mother's son, and uncle is mother's younger brother. Then why can I eat, but uncle can't? Xiaomi rolled its eyes and simply ignored Bai Xiaochen. It used its claws to dig through the bottles and jars for a while and found a bottle of medicinal pills, which it handed to Bai Xiao. If you eat one, your cold will immediately be gone. Bai Ling's eyes were a little dazed. This was the first time he had heard of using snacks to cure Qing. But looking at Bai Xiaoqin's shining eyes, Bai Xiao could not bear to refuse. He took the porcelain bottle that Xiaomi had pushed in front of him and carefully twisted it open. Chapter 62 62 Chen Er is angry. A faint fragrance flowed out of the bottle, and it actually made Bai Su's mind sober up. He was a little surprised as he looked at Bai Xiaochen, who was staring at him. He carefully poured the porcelain bottle into his palm, and an emerald green medicinal pill slid down from the mouth of the bottle. This Pixio is your snack. A look of shock flashed past Bai Xiao's face as he raised his head in astonishment and looked at Bai Xiaochen and Xiao Mi. Were these two guys bullying him because he was uneducated? Bai Xiaochen nodded his head very forcefully. His small finger pointed at the green medicinal pill in Bai Xiao's hand, and his voice was young and innocent. This is Chen Er's favorite sweet bean. There are many more, and they are all in different flavors. Bai Xiao took a deep breath and strongly suppressed the fluctuations in his heart. He used his hand to press down on Bai Xiaoqin's shoulder and said seriously, Chen Er, I'm telling you seriously, this is not a snack, it's a pill. I don't care where you got these pills from, but your actions are simply a waste of God's gifts. Although Bai Su had never eaten a pill before, he had seen it before. Therefore, he immediately recognized it the moment he saw it. What made his heart ache even more was that Bai Xiaochen and this little me actually treated medicinal pills as snacks. No wonder his grandmasters wanted to fight over this. Bai Xiaochen scratched the back of his head. But Ran, Chen Er has a lot of these snacks. I can't even finish them. If uncle likes them, Chen Er can give them all to uncle. Bai Yan's heart skipped a beat. There were a lot of pills. You can't even finish it? This Tao Wu was too demoralizing. In the eyes of the world, a single pill was hard to find, but he couldn't even finish it? Little master, do you remember the effects of these pills? Xiaomi swept a disdainful glance at Bai Xiaochen and then turned its gaze back to Bai Xiao. There are many types of medicinal pills. Wait for master to return. You can only consume them after she tells you the effects. You should consume the medicinal pills now, and you will recover from your illness very quickly. Bai Su lowered his head and stared at the pill in his palm. He nodded silently and put the pill to his lips. The pill melted in his mouth and turned into a clear stream, gradually lowering the boiling temperature on his forehead. Chen Er, uncle is almost fully recovered. You and Xiaomi should quickly leave to avoid being seen by the Bai family. Bai Ling felt his body relax, and his expression also relaxed. He looked at the sky outside the window, which was getting darker and darker, and urged anxiously. Uncle. Bai Xiaochen blinked his large eyes. Is it because the Bai family doesn't allow you to attend mother's welcoming banquet? Bai Ling was startled and shook his head. I've been running a high fever since yesterday. Yurong sent someone over once in the middle of it. After finding out that I had a high fever, they left. Did they invite a doctor for you? Bai Xiaoqin's small face was scrunched up, and his young tone was filled with anger. If I can't get up, Yurong will benefit the most, Bai Xiao said with a bitter smile. Why would she invite a doctor for me? Xiao Mi. Bai Xiaochen waved his hand in annoyance. Let's go. Chen Er. Seeing Bai Xiaoqin's angry little appearance, Bai Xiao was so frightened that he stood up and asked anxiously, where do you want to go? Of course to cause trouble. Bai Xiaochen raised his chin slightly, and there was a look of anger on his small face. He was clearly still young, but he already had the aura of a king who ruled the world. Don't be rash. Bai Xiao hurriedly pulled Bai Xiaoqin's small hand, his gaze filled with worry. Your mother doesn't want you to be exposed yet. If you expose yourself on impulse, your mother will definitely be angry. Chapter 63. 63 Taking Revenge for Mother I. As expected. Hearing Bai Xiao mention Bai Yan, Bai Xiao Chen hesitated for a moment. As long as I don't expose myself, it'll be fine. Bai Xiao was startled. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Bai Xiao Chen carrying Xiaomi and walking out of the room. The boy's small figure disappeared under the moonlight as he slowly walked in the direction of the courtyard. The moonlight poured down, shining on Bai Xiaoqin's small, jade-like face. Bai Xiao Chen stopped in his tracks. He raised his hand and pinched Xiaomi's round face, asking, Xiaomi, do you know where that bad woman lives? I know. Come with me. Xiaomi jumped down from Bai Xiaoqin's embrace and quickly ran forward. The Bai residence at night was very quiet. Occasionally, a few groups of people would walk past, but they were all avoided by Bai Xiao Chen and Xiao Mi. From afar, he could see a room illuminated by an oil lamp. Xiaomi, wait for me here, Yingluo. Bai Xiao Chen hid Xiaomi away and carefully walked towards the brightly lit room. His steps were very small, afraid that he would disturb the people in the room. In the room, old Madame Yu sat at the table, Yu Rong sat next to her, and there was only one maidservant standing silently at the side waiting for orders. Rong so many years have passed. Why hasn't there been any movement from your stomach? Old Madame Yu's expression was very unhappy. If you don't give birth to a son, the Bai family's children will be given to that little bastard Bai Xiao in the future. Yu Rong's expression froze. She lowered her head to look at her flat lower abdomen, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Mother, I have no choice. Ever since I gave birth to Ger, I have never gotten pregnant again. Because of this, I even went to look for an alchemist to take a look at my illness. That alchemist claimed that my body was very healthy and the illness might have appeared in Zhenxiang. Old Madame Yu was stunned and frowned. As long as it's not you, the child's matter is easy to handle. Mother, what do you mean by that? Yu Rong raised her head in surprise and looked at old Madame Yu's twisted old face in astonishment. Everything of the Bai family should be ours. We can't give it to that bastard Bai Su. Her expression was somewhat deranged, and she gritted her teeth in hatred. So, Yingluo, you have to find someone to get pregnant with and give birth to a son. Whoosh! Yu Rong was so shocked that she stood up. The teacup was knocked to the ground by her, and the hot tea spilled on her hand, but she seemed to be completely unaware, her eyes full of disbelief. Mother, what are you saying? How can you make me betray Zhenxiang? Moreover, if this matter is known by him, Yingluo. Old Madame Yu's face was ferocious. Could it be that you want everything in the Bai family to be inherited by that little bastard Bai Yan? What right does he have to take away what belongs to us from our hands? However, even if I give birth to a son, Bai Xiao is still of the Bai family's bloodline. Moreover, everyone knows that everything the Bai family has was brought over by Lan Yu. If we do this, it will be easy for us to be in the eye of the storm. Yu Rong was a little worried in her heart. What she was worried about was not that Bai Su would take everything from her, but that she would be humiliated by tens of thousands of people. Isn't there an old saying that goes, marry the chicken and follow the chicken, marry the dog and follow the dog? The dowry that Lan Yu brought is what the Bai family deserves. You're now the matriarch of the Bai family, so all her things are yours. Who dares to say anything? Old Madame Yu snorted coldly, and a gloomy look flashed across her old face. As for Bai Qingqing, I have plenty of ways to destroy his reputation. Chapter 64. 64 Taking Revenge for Mother, 2. Moreover, Zhen Zhen. Seeing the worry in Yu Rong's eyes that had not dissipated, Old Madam Yu continued, "Don't forget, Ruoer is the crown prince's consort and will be the motherly figure of the world in the future. Ger is also the future Kang Wangfei among the women of Luhuo Kingdom. Who else has a higher status than you?" When Yu Rong heard this, her expression finally relaxed. She nodded in agreement. "That's right. I still have two daughters who are of noble status. In the future, their status will be at the top of Luhuo Kingdom. This is not something that little slut Bai Yan can compare to. Bai Ruori was the queen of the world, and she was the most respected woman in the world. As for Princess Kang Suanji, although Prince Kang's status was not as high as the crown prince's, he was still very powerful. When he became Prince Kang's mother-in-law in the future, how could he not protect her? However, Qian, Yu Rong seemed to have thought of something and continued to ask, "Is Prince Kang willing to marry Rger?" Old Madam Yu sneered. "Don't be fooled by Prince Kang's talent and strength. In Luhuo Kingdom, he also needs to fear the imperial power. When the time comes, let Ruoer issue an imperial decree. Would Prince Kang dare to refuse? He was just a prince of the opposite sex. No matter how much the emperor respected him, he could not compare to the imperial power." Yu Rong laughed, "That's true. With Ruoer around, why would we be afraid that the Azure Emperor would not marry Ger? Back then, I lost to Lan Yu, but my daughters were all more outstanding than her. They even married better than her." Seeing Yu Rong's thoughts, old Madame Yu's expression gradually calmed down. At this moment, she suddenly noticed a movement outside. Her eyes suddenly narrowed and she shouted, "Who is it?" There was only silence outside the door. Old Madame Yu gave the servant girl beside her a look, and a murderous intent flashed in her eyes. "You go open the door, I want to see who dares to eavesdrop." "Yes, old madam." The servant girl went to the door and pushed it open. The night sky was quiet. Under the cold moonlight, a silver fox was standing at the door. The fox's fur was shiny and soft, making it look very cute. Especially its fluffy tail, which was like a ball of cotton, soft and fluffy. The fox in the night wasn't very big. It was just a young fox that hadn't reached adulthood. However, its eyes had already begun to show the domineering aura of a sovereign descending from the heavens. It was currently staring at the two people in the room with monstrous anger. "So it's a fox." Old Madame Yu heaved a sigh of relief. She thought someone was eavesdropping, but it turned out to be a young fox. A fox at this age probably didn't even have a consciousness. "Mother, I feel that Silver Fox's eyes are very familiar. I think I've seen them somewhere before." Yu Rong frowned. Suddenly, a domineering and devilish face appeared in her mind, and her face turned pale. She must be thinking too much. How could this fox, Lauai, possibly be similar to the Azure Emperor? Old Madame Yu ignored Yu Rong's words. She stared at the little fox and her eyes flickered. "I remember Ruoer saying that she wanted a demonic beast. It's a pity that I didn't manage to find someone to tame the demonic beast. It's a good thing that the heavens are too kind to our Bai clan, and sent this young fox over. Demon beasts were difficult to tame only to adult demon beasts. If you raised them from the beginning, they would naturally submit to you when they grew up." Hearing these people determine its fate with a few words, Silver Fox's beautiful big eyes narrowed slightly. With a whoosh, he flew up, and his soft and cute little claws grabbed Yu Rong's hair. Chapter 65 65 Taking Revenge for Mother, 3. Ah! The little fox's claws grabbed Yu Rong's hair and pulled hard. Her scalp was torn off, and Yu Rong cried out in pain. "Little bastard, you actually dare to hurt me." Yu Rong was furious. She threw a slap at the little fox, her eyes burning with anger. Seeing that the palm was about to land on her, the little fox immediately dodged to the side and nimbly dodged the palm. She didn't forget to make a face at Yu Rong, making Yu Rong so angry that her face turned ashen. "Someone, Someone quickly come and capture the stinky fox for this madam. Yurong wiped her bleeding scalp and shouted angrily. In an instant, a group of guards rushed in from the door and rushed straight at the little fox standing on the table. Whoosh! The little fox leaped and immediately broke free from the encirclement of the guards. Its sharp little claws turned towards Yurong's face. Fortunately, Yurong blocked it relatively quickly and avoided being disfigured. Even so, the back of her hand was still bleeding, and she was in so much pain that she gritted her teeth. Kill it! Kill it! Yurong's face was contorted as she stared at the little fox ferociously. However, Yingluo. This time, the little fox didn't try to catch it. Instead, when the guards rushed over, it immediately jumped out of the window and disappeared into the dark night. A bunch of useless things, you can't even catch a fox. Yurong angrily raised her leg and kicked the guard in front of her as she angrily rebuked. She clutched her hand tightly. She didn't know if it was her imagination, but she felt that the wound on her hand was itchy. It was so itchy that she couldn't help but want to scratch Suanji. Alright, it's not the guard's fault. It's the fox's fault for being too cunning. Old Madame Yu frowned slightly. However, the Bai family is so big. Since the fox has appeared here, it can't leave easily. Immediately send all the guards of the Bai family to find it. The guard lowered his head and said respectfully. After the guard left, old Madame Yu turned to look at Yurong and frowned. Have you forgotten what I told you? No matter how dissatisfied you are, you can't show it in front of others. But that fox is too infuriating. The moment she thought of what this fox had done to her, Yurong gritted her teeth in hatred. Moreover, she felt that the wound on the back of her hand was getting more and more itchy. She couldn't control her hand and kept scratching, as if she wanted to scratch off a layer of skin. Don't worry, it won't be able to escape from our hands. Old Madame Yu smiled coldly. When had she ever let go of something she had her eyes on? It was the same for the Bai family and Lan Yu's dowry, Wan. Just as old Madame Yu was scheming against Bai Xiaochen, he had already run quickly towards Xiao Mi. At this moment, Xiao Mi was lying in the grass and elegantly licking its claws. It glanced at the little fox that was running towards it under the moonlight and asked, "You finished your business?" That bad woman was scheming against uncle and even called mother a slut. I couldn't stand it, so I scratched her a few times. Bai Xiaochen flicked his silver fur, and his young and tender voice was filled with anger. His pair of clean and clear eyes revealed his bloodthirsty nature at this moment. Xiaomi blinked its eyes. Just a few scratches? Would their little master, who was crazy about protecting his mother, let go of Yurong so easily? Bai Xiaochen might have also sensed what Xiaomi was thinking and revealed a smile. Xiaomi, have you forgotten? I didn't have much interest in medicinal pills since I was young. I only like to release poison, so just now, I placed some poison on the bad woman's body to let her have a taste of this. Chapter 66. 66 Drilling through the dog hole. Quick, let's split up and search. I don't believe we can't find that little fox. Right at this moment, a voice rang out from the front. Bai Xiaoqin's body scuttled into the grass with a whoosh, using the grass to cover his small body. Master must be waiting anxiously. Little master, let's leave the Bai family first to avoid alerting the enemy. Xiaomi licked its claws and squinted at the guards who were quickly walking past the grass. It shook its body and got up from the ground. I know a way to leave the Bai family. Bai Xiaochen was very unhappy in his heart. He nonchalantly replied with an "oh" before turning around and following Xiaomi to walk forward carefully. If mother had not instructed Xiaomi to look after him, he would not have listened to Xiaomi's words. Along the way, Xiaomi brought Bai Xiaochen and nimbly dodged those guards. Only after those guards left did they continue to move forward. However, when Bai Xiaochen saw the dog hole that appeared in front of him, his voice changed. It was young and tender, and there was anger in it. Bad Xiaomi, you actually want me to crawl through the dog hole. You're the one who started this. Do you want to ignore your mother's words and expose yourself? Xiaomi rolled its eyes and said sarcastically. Even if the current Bai Xiaochen was a fox, it was still possible to see his expression change greatly after Xiaomi finished speaking. He looked like he was about to cry. Xiaomi, you only know how to use mother to threaten me. It's just a dog hole, I'll go in, alright. It was better than making her mother angry. Xiaomi glanced at Bai Xiaochen, who was slowly walking towards the dog flap, and the corners of its lips curled up. This little master of his was not afraid of anything except his mother Yingluo. At this moment, Bai Xiaochen had a feeling as though he was rushing to the execution ground. He closed his eyes and came out of the dog hole with a whoosh. After Bai Xiaochen came out of the dog hole, Xiaomi also did not hesitate and went out of the dog hole to take a look. The wide street was bright under the moonlight. Bai Xiaoqin's gaze turned, and he saw an extremely beautiful woman dressed in red slowly walking over from the main street. A trace of joy flashed past his eyes. Just as he was about to open his mouth to speak, he suddenly caught a glimpse of the young lady who was following closely beside the woman and immediately swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue. He used that aggrieved and resentful gaze to stare straight at Bai Yan in a daze. Cousin, look. That fox is so pretty. Lan Xiaoun dragged Bai Ji and walked beside Bai Yan. Her eyes were looking straight ahead, and when her gaze landed on that little silver fox, a hint of surprise flashed past her eyes. As the daughter of the Lan family, although she was unable to contract demonic beasts, she was still fated to see those strong and beautiful swan eye. She had never seen a fox that was more beautiful than the silver fox. Especially those clean and clear eyes, they were like a clear spring. They were so cute that Lan Xiaoun's heart started to beat faster. Bai Xiaochen did not care about Lan Xiaoun. He quickly streaked across the night sky and rushed towards Bai Yan, ruthlessly pouncing into her embrace. The little fox cub's soft and fluffy tail brushed past Bai Yan's face, causing her to be unable to help but pinch his little nose. What are you doing here? Bai Xiaochen swept a glance at Lan Xiaoun and did not say anything. He used his paw to point at Xiaomi, meaning that he had come with Xiaomi. Bai Yan narrowed her eyes slightly. Since Xiaomi had already left the Bai family, it proved that Bai Xiao's current situation was safe. Yingluo. Chapter 67. 67 I want a sister. Cousin Qian. Lan Xiaoun, who was standing beside Bai Yan, was staring at the little fox in her arms with shining eyes. That gaze startled Bai Xiaochen so much that his body trembled, and he hurriedly burrowed into his mother's embrace a few more times. I'll find you another fox in the future, but it can't. Bai Yan had never thought of giving little Chen Er away. Therefore, when she sensed Lan Xiaoun's thoughts, she immediately rejected her. All right, he said. Lan Xiaoun's gaze was very disappointed as she looked at Bai Xiaochen, who was nestled in Bai Yan's embrace, with reluctance. However, the fox you find for me must be as beautiful as this one. More beautiful than little Chen Er. Bai Yan casually gave a perfunctory reply. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Yun Er, you can just leave Bai Ji at the door. Let's go. Cousin, aren't you going to look for cousin? Lan Xiaoun was a little surprised. Wasn't her cousin worried about her cousin? Why did he have to go back to his residence when he had reached the door? He's very safe. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up and a cold glint flashed in her eyes. In the future, with the protection of the people from Phoenix House, Bai Su would definitely not be in any danger. She could also do her own things without worry. Xiaomi, bring Chen Er back. Bai Yan's words had just fallen when Bai Xiaoqin's little claws tightly tugged on her sleeve. He raised his eyes and used those teary eyes to stare at her. This gaze made Bai Yan's heart soften and she sighed helplessly. Xiaomi, you go back first. I will send Chen Er home tomorrow. Meow, she said. Xiaomi cried out and glanced at Bai Yan and Bai Xiaochen. It then turned around and sped off into the night. Very quickly, it disappeared into the long street. Let's go home. Bai Yan carried the little fellow in her arms and then pulled Lan Xiaoyun's hand as they walked in the direction of the Lan family. When she returned home, Lan Yu had not returned yet. At that time, she had asked Lan Yu to go to the Lan family to find Bai Xiao and also sent a letter to Xiaomi to let him follow and take a look. However, looking at the situation, it seems like Lan Yu won't be able to return anytime soon. Yingluo. Lan Xiaoyun had originally wanted to follow Bai Yan back to her room. Even if she could not have this little silver fox, teasing him was also not bad. However, Bai Yan, who was anxious to know what had happened, closed the door with a bang, almost smashing Lan Xiaoyun's nose. Lan Xiaoyun touched her nose with an aggrieved expression. She thought of what Bai Yan had promised her and immediately became enlightened. In any case, cousin has promised me to find some foxes for me to choose from. I don't need to be in a hurry. She was in a good mood. She glanced at the closed door and turned to leave. Only after Lan Xiaoyun's footsteps gradually faded away did Bai Yan heave a sigh of relief. Only then did she turn to the little fox that was sprawled on the table. Under the flickering light, the little fox's body began to change. In a short while, a barefoot baby appeared in front of her. Chen Er, how is your uncle? Bai Yan's heart was filled with worry as she asked. Mother, that bad woman is so hateful. Bai Xiaoqin's small face was huffing in anger. Uncle is sick, but you didn't even invite a doctor for him and even locked him up. I even overheard her scolding you and uncle. And then, that bad woman's mother asked her to give birth to a baby for someone else. Mother, you should also give birth to a baby to accompany Chen Er. Bai Xiaoqin's eyes lit up as he looked at Bai Yan without blinking. Bai Yan coughed awkwardly. You don't even have a father. How is your mother going to give birth? Chapter 68. 68 kicked towards him. But, Hua. Bai Xiaochen tilted his small head, looking innocent and naive. If a bad woman can find someone else to give birth to a baby, why can't mother? Even little fatty Wang has a sister, and Chen Er wants one too. Wang little fatty? Who is it? Bai Yan raised her brows and asked. It's the person who lives next door to us. He's also Chen Er's new friend. His family is really rich, so Wang little fatty became a little fatty. Bai Yan frowned and muttered to herself for a moment before she understood. This neighbor was not from Sacred Isle, but a new friend that Bai Xiaochen got to know after moving to Luhuo Kingdom. Even though little Chen Er had a dormant personality, she was still a child. Children of this age needed playmates of the same age. Bao bao. Bai Yan rubbed Bai Xiaoqin's body and pinched his little nose with her fingers. A younger sister can't be born just because you say so. This kind of thing also needs to depend on fate. You're still young now. You'll understand when you grow up. Bai Xiaochen nodded his head, not fully understanding. He was so envious of Wang little fatty for having such an adorable little sister. However, his mother was right. No matter how much he wanted a little sister, he had to listen to his mother. Mother, then let's look for father, okay. If father wants to take Chen Er away, then mother will leave with Chen Er. He would have a sister if he found his father. What if your father only wants you and not mother? Little Chen Er had not brought her here because she was in love with him, but because she had been poisoned and needed an antidote. Bai Xiaochen was stunned. He had never thought of this before. So, he fell silent. After pondering for a long time, Bai Xiaochen raised his cute little face, and his innocent eyes glowed with an alluring luster. Mother is so good, it's impossible for father to not want her. If Zhen Zhen really doesn't want mother, then Chen Er won't want him either. His small body burrowed into Bai Yan's embrace and tightly pulled on her sleeve. In this world, he could do without anyone, as long as he had his mother. Bai Yan hugged the soft and small body in her arms, a satisfied smile on her lips. In this life, she had never regretted giving birth to Bai Xiaochen. Suddenly, the night wind whistled outside the window and there was a faint familiar aura blowing in her face, scaring Bai Yan so much that her face turned pale. She suddenly stood up from the chair and quickly took out a medicinal pill. This is a pill that can restrain your aura. Take it immediately and hide under the bed. No matter what happens, don't appear. Bai Xiaochen still didn't know what had happened before he was forcefully fed a medicinal pill. After that, he was stuffed under the bed. It was a dazzling figure. Her silver hair was like a charm, unparalleled. Domineering, devilish, none of these words could be used to describe this man. She was dressed in purple, which was like the most beautiful color under the night sky, and her phoenix eyes were faintly flowing with a dark color. Bai Yan's breathing tightened. This man was actually beautiful to such an extent. No wonder the thousands of young ladies in Luhuo Kingdom all wanted to become Kang Wangfei. Unfortunately, the more beautiful something was, the more dangerous it was. This man was like a flower hanging on a cliff. Everyone who saw him wanted to step on him, but if they were not careful, they would fall off the cliff and be consigned to eternal damnation. What are you thinking about? Just as Bai Yan was in a daze, the man had already arrived in front of her. His slightly warm breath hit her face, causing Bai Yan to immediately return to her senses. When she saw the handsome face in close proximity, Bai Yan did not hesitate and stretched out her leg to kick him ruthlessly. Chapter 69. 69 Forced Kiss. Before her foot could land on the man, a large hand had grabbed it tightly. The man squinted his eyes slightly, a dangerous arc in his phoenix eyes. Are you burning the bridge after crossing it? Have you forgotten how you used this king at the banquet? You delivered yourself to my door for me to use, and you're blaming me. Bai Yan rolled her eyes at the man. If this man hadn't teased her first, would she have used him to provoke the father and daughter of the Bai family? From there, she could make Bai Zhenxiang personally propose to expel her from the family. Bai Yan. Dikang's voice sounded like he was gritting his teeth as his body tightly pressed towards Bai Yan. Bai Yan retreated repeatedly, but there was a white wall behind her. She could only laugh dryly. Then what do you want to do? Of course it's because you want Ying Luo to sleep with you. The man's tone was extremely dangerous, especially his bloodthirsty phoenix eyes, which reminded her of that night 6 years ago. Seeing that she was forced into a corner by the man, Bai Yan's back was tightly pressed against the wall. Her thoughts were spinning in vain as she kept thinking of countermeasures. Thump. It was unknown if it was because Bai Xiaochen, who was hiding under the bed, was too excited and accidentally knocked himself off the bed. He also successfully drew the man's gaze away from Bai Yan's body and landed under the bed. You're still hiding people. His tone wasn't questioning, but rather certain. Even the temperature of his body had dropped by a few degrees. Dikang. Bai Yan hurriedly pulled Dikang's sleeve and said with a dry smile, I have a cat. From Dikang's words, she could already be certain that this man was the one she had raped 6 years ago. Therefore, she must not let him discover Bai Xiaoqin's existence. The little fellow under the bed also meowed cooperatively, which also made Bai Yan's heart slowly settle down. Fortunately, little Chen Er was obedient enough this time. Otherwise, she would not know how to end this. But very quickly, her heart, which had been put at ease, was once again in her mouth. Dikang forcefully pushed her hand away and strode towards the bed. Bai Yan's heart was ruthlessly lifted up. When she saw Dikang, who had already walked to the head of the bed, she suddenly made up her mind and rushed towards Dikang. At this moment, Dikang's hand was already holding onto the bed pillar. He only needed to use a little force and the big bed would be turned over. The person hiding under the bed would also become unable to hide the Kazaya. Just as Dikang was about to make a move, a body had already crashed into his arms and delivered her own lips, while two hands tightly grabbed his clothes. Actually, when Bai Yan kissed Dikang, she had already regretted it. Even if she had only met Dikang 3 times, she also understood his character quite well. This man had a serious obsession with cleanliness. As long as it was his things, he would never allow anyone to touch it, let alone touch it. Bai Yan could no longer care so much now. She only knew that she must not let Dikang discover little Chen Er, so she had to divert his attention. This was the only way to ensure that this man would not notice little Chen Er's existence. Even if it was anger. For a long time, the man in front of her did not move. This made her involuntarily open her eyes and she instantly fell into a pair of bloodthirsty eyes. Bai Yan released the man's lips and laughed dryly as she said, "You're too beautiful, I can't control myself." Beauty. Dikang's eyes narrowed slightly. If he did not remember wrongly, this woman had called him a beauty the first time they met. Oh, she even teased him. Chapter 70. 70 Scared now. Why? Are you afraid now? 6 years ago, you slept with this king, and 6 years later, you forcefully kissed this king. How should I settle these 2 debts with you? I told you, the one 6 years ago wasn't me. In any case, she would never admit that she was the one who did it 6 years ago. Let's not talk about what happened 6 years ago for now. This prince will investigate it thoroughly. Xiao Yan Er, how about we settle this score now? Dikang stretched out his arm and forcefully pulled Bai Yan in front of him. Her entire body could not move. It was tightly tensed, and even her face was tense. Dikang, you. Bai Yan was furious. Before she could finish her words, she was blocked by the man's cold red lips. His kiss was very domineering, but also very distant. The strong smell of blood wafted through her mouth, making her frown unhappily. Dikang's hand could not help but touch Bai Yan's face. Those slightly cold fingertips made Bai Yan's entire body shiver. A hint of anger appeared in her eyes and her sharp gaze landed on Dikang like a sword. However, this feeling was too wonderful, so wonderful that Dikang was unwilling to let go. Originally, he was extremely disgusted with women. However, just now, Bai Yan's gentle kiss not only did not make him feel disgusted, but he even wanted to continue. Bai Yan desperately wanted to break free from the man, but the man's strength was too great and she could not move at all. Fortunately, as she struggled, one of her feet was able to leave the man's restraint. Joy flashed in her eyes and she kicked the man. This bloodline-ending kick carried a sharp wind, fierce, and merciless. If it was in the past, the man could easily grab her leg that was used to sneak an attack, but now, the man was too engrossed in it and did not realize that her leg had already left his restraint. So, with a bang, Bai Yan's foot kicked the man. This kick was like a basin of cold water being poured on him, instantly extinguishing all the fire that appeared on the man's body. The man's face was ashen, and his bloodthirsty phoenix eyes were full of anger. Bai Yan. Do you really not want your legs anymore? Bai Yan tidied up her clothes and sat up on the bed. Dikang. Don't think I'm easy to bully. If you didn't take advantage of me, would I have kicked you? Don't forget, you were the one who attacked this king first. The man felt the excruciating pain and his face turned even uglier. He really wanted to strangle this hateful woman to death. Suddenly, Dikang laughed. This smile was evil and cruel, and the anger in his eyes only increased. Bai Yan. You'd better pray that you didn't do what happened 6 years ago, otherwise, new hatred and old hatred will be mixed together. Bai Yan sat up on the bed and asked, what do you plan to do? This king will make you unable to get out of bed. Dikang took 2 steps forward and his fingers tightly clutched Bai Yan's chin. Even if it's at that time, it's useless for you to beg for mercy. His eyes swept over and immediately discovered the faint blood on Bai Yan's lips. His beautiful brows furrowed slightly. "You're injured." Bai Yan slapped away Dikang's hand and laughed coldly. Wasn't her injury caused by this bastard? However, when she thought of Dikang's words earlier, she couldn't help but feel a little guilty. It seemed that she was indeed the one who had started the fight with Han Han, but she had originally wanted to welcome his fury. She did not expect this man to suddenly go berserk. Chapter 71. 71 The baby doesn't like daddy. Dikang's gaze remained on Bai Yan's lips the entire time. His cold fingertips gently stroked the woman's lips as he spoke in a low voice, perhaps suppressing some emotions. "Why didn't you say that you were injured?" The piercing blood made him feel as if his heart was being torn apart. The pain made him frown again. "Did you give me a chance to speak?" Bai Yan sneered. Her lips had been blocked by him the whole time, so how could she say anything? Besides, even if she told him, this man would not let her go. "Bai Yan." Dikang took 2 steps closer to Bai Yan and his voice was a little hoarse. "You still owe me 9 kisses. I'll get them back from you one by one." Bai Yan's eyes immediately widened and her tone was filled with anger. "I only kissed you once, and you want me to return 10, aren't you going too far?" As if he did not hear Bai Yan's furious voice, Dikang turned around and left. His purple robe immediately disappeared under the night sky, leaving behind only a slightly cold wind that brushed past Bai Yan's face. After Dikang left, Bai Xiaochen crawled out from under the bed. He patted the dust off his robe and walked to Bai Yan's side. "Mother, is he baby's father?" The little fellow's baby-like voice made Bai Yan regain her senses and she laughed awkwardly. "Chen Er has mistaken him for someone else. He's not your father." "Mother is lying," Bai Xiaochen puffed up his cheeks in anger. "He's clearly baby's daddy. But the baby doesn't like him Yingluo." At the end, Bai Xiaoqin's expression was a little dejected. He finally knew who his father was, but he didn't like this father. Bai Yan was startled and asked, "Why? He's so fierce." Bai Xiaoqin's lips twitched. In his imagination, his father should be the same as his godfather, Chu Fenji. He should be a man who was as cold as ice to others but as warm as the wind to him and his mother. "Mother, why don't you be godfather's wife?" Bai Xiaochen hooked his arms around Bai Yan's neck, his pair of eyes that could talk contained a cunning glint. "Godfather is gentle and rich. He's much better than that fierce fellow." If he didn't know that the man was his father, he would have rushed out when he bullied his mother. Bai Yan thought of that kiss and felt a little embarrassed. That's not considered bullying me. Furthermore, she was the one who initiated the kiss. Chen Er saw everything. Bai Xiaoqin's small face was flushed red as he said angrily, "That scoundrel bit mother and even made mother bleed. Chen Er doesn't want him to be a father." Bai Xiaochen was still young, so he naturally didn't know what Dikang had done to his mother. He only knew that his mother's lips were bitten to the point of bleeding. Therefore, his first impression of Dikang was extremely bad. "Mother, Chen Er knows. It's because that bad guy is too strong. Mother is afraid that Chen Er will be snatched away, so she did not let Chen Er appear." Bai Xiaochen pressed his little face against Bai Yan's face. "However, mother, don't worry. Chen Er will grow up very quickly. At that time, if that bad guy still bullies mother, Chen Er will bite him to death." Bai Yan's heart warmed. Where could she find such a considerate son? "Chen Er, during this period of time, I won't be going back, but I'll let your Aunt Hua stay in the house to take care of you." Bai Yan hugged Bai Xiaochen and let him sit on her lap. "After the matters here are settled, mother will take you far away and definitely not let that bastard find you." Bai Xiaoqin's gaze had a look of grievance that he was enduring, but he nodded his head sensibly. "Mother, don't worry. Chen Er will be very obedient and won't cause any trouble." I'll wait for mother to take me away after you're done with your matters. Chapter 72. 72%. He knew that if he didn't listen to his mother this time, he might be in a bad mood after that man found out. The mother and son would be separated forever. Bai Yan's heart ached a little as she tightly hugged Bai Xiaoqin's body. I'll bring you a bottle of pills tomorrow. If you want to see me in the future, take this pill and come back. This pill can hide your smell and he won't be able to find you. Demonic beasts could recognize people based on their aura. If Dikang saw Bai Xiaoqian, he would recognize him at the first moment. Therefore, Bai Yan specially instructed Bai Xiaoqian that he must take the medicinal pill before he could come and find him. Mother. Bai Xiaoqian snuggled tightly in Bai Yan's arms, tears continuously swirling in his eyes. However, he did not have the time to be sad about being separated from his mother when Bai Yan's palm landed on Bai Xiaoqin's head with a slap. Bai Xiaoqian, I still haven't settled the score with you. You're so greedy for money at such a young age. It's fine if you're greedy for money, but why do you have to eye other people's silver? Is mother not rich enough? The moment she thought of what Bai Xiaoqian had said earlier, Bai Yan gritted her teeth. What did she mean by Chu Fenji being gentle and rich? This little fellow wanted to sell her for this little bit of silver. Mother, it's not my fault. It's Sister Chu. She asked me to put in a good word for Godfather in front of mother. Bai Xiaoqian held onto his little head that had been slapped. When he raised his head, he saw Bai Yan's eyes that were filled with anger and hurriedly confessed about a certain someone. She's your godfather's little sister. If you call her big sister, what does that make your godfather? But Sister Chu doesn't want me to call her auntie. She forced me to call her sister. Bai Xiaoqian was so aggrieved that he almost cried as he looked at Bai Yan with teary eyes. In the future, don't associate yourself with her. Bai Yan swept a glance at Bai Xiaoqian and warned. That mischievous little girl gave all the elders in the Holy Land endless headaches, but Bai Xiaoqian just liked to hang out with her. Chen Er knows her mistake. The world was big, but mother was the most important. Therefore, mother's words were right. Hurry up and go to bed. Go back to the old house by yourself early tomorrow morning. After Bai Yan threw down these words, she no longer cared about Bai Xiaoqian and slowly walked towards the bed in a daze. On the outskirts of the imperial city, Dikang's purple robe fell from the sky. His hands clenched into fists and he smashed them on the ancient tree in front of him with a bang. The towering tree collapsed with a loud crash. After he vented the emotions in his heartache was relieved. Your Highness. The guards that followed behind knelt in front of Dikang uneasily. They did not know what had happened for His Highness to be so furious. Go and investigate. Find out everything about Bai Yan's past for this king. Dikang's eyes slightly darkened. Bai Yan, who exactly are you? Why is it that your blood Kazaya can easily stir up this king's emotions? Yes, your highness. Hearing this, the guard's heart was slightly relieved. He stood up and immediately retreated. Looking in the direction where the guard had left, Dikang narrowed his eyes slightly and his slender fingers gently stroked his cold thin lips. On his lips, there seemed to still be a woman's taste. Whether you admit it or not, this king has already determined that you are the woman from 6 years ago. To the fox tribe, their sense of smell was very obvious. No matter how much a person tried to hide, the smell would never change. However, it was a little awkward. Thinking of the rumors of Bai Yan's pregnancy before marriage, an obscure and unclear light flashed in Dikang's eyes. Chapter 73. 73 Summoned by the Empress Dowager, 1. The next day. The morning sun had just risen. There was a commotion outside the door. Bai Yan's brows furrowed and her eyes slowly opened. She suddenly realized that Bai Xiaoqian, who was originally nestled in her arms, had already left. It was just that he was in a daze. The temperature of the blanket was proof of his existence last night. Cousin. Bang. Bang. A shout came from outside the door, and the door was suddenly slammed open. Lan Xiaoun ran in casually, and her delicate little face was full of gloating. What happened? Seeing Lan Xiaoun's appearance, Bai Yan guessed that something must have happened. Cousin, do you still remember that when you left the banquet last night, you asked my father to go to the Bai family to look for cousin? Lan Xiaoun giggled and said, that night, my father and Bai Zhenxiang fell out. Bai Zhenxiang, that bastard, even stopped my father from seeing my cousin. In the end, my father barged in. Oh! What kind of good thing is this? Bai Yan raised her eyebrows. Of course, this matter doesn't count. What I wanted to talk about was another matter. Lan Xiaoun's eyes were sinister and cunning. When my father brought a group of people to break into the Bai family, he saw Yurong go crazy. It was as if she was under a spell as she kept scratching the back of her hand until a layer of skin was peeled off. Most importantly, she did a striptease at the end. Bai Yan's eyes sank. There was no need to think. This good thing was definitely done by Bai Xiaochen. However, she really wanted to say, well done. Cousin, are you not happy? At that time, many men saw Yurong's naked body. Lan Xiaoun's small face was flushed red, and her clear eyes were filled with excitement. Immediately after, she felt a little regretful. If I had known that Yurong knew how to strip dance, I would have asked father to bring more people to the Bai family. Thinking of the torture that Yurong had suffered, the corners of Bai Yan's lips gradually lifted into an arc. The price she had to pay for hurting me back then, I will make her pay. This is only the first one. Lan Xiaoun tilted her head and blinked her big eyes. Why did she feel that her cousin Yingluo seemed to know who did this? Fox. Suddenly, Lan Xiaoun thought of what her father had said. It was said that when he barged into the Bai family, the people of the Bai family were searching for a fox. And last night, Yingluo. However, a fox really ran out of the Bai family. Lan Xiaoun thought of the answer and her eyes widened. Baiao older sister, could it be that the matter was your Zhen? Bai Yan stretched her back lazily and interrupted Lan Xiaoun's words. I'm going to wash up and get up. You can go out first. No. Lan Xiaoun's mouth twitched. I haven't even finished speaking and you're already trying to chase me away, cousin. Is there anything else? It's like this. Grandfather asked me to tell you that the Empress Dowager has sent someone to summon you into the palace. Grandfather saw that you were still sleeping just now, so he asked me not to disturb you. Empress Dowager. Bai Yan fell silent. She did not have a deep impression of the Empress Dowager. She only knew from her memories that Lan Yu had a very good relationship with the Empress Dowager and that the Empress Dowager had watched her grow up. Back then, the Empress Dowager wanted Lan Yu to enter the palace as the Empress but was rejected by Lan Yu. Even so, the Empress Dowager did not alienate Lan Yu because of this. Instead, she recognized her as her goddaughter, Qian. When she was young, she often went to the palace with Lan Yu to meet the Empress Dowager. However, ever since Lan Yu passed away, she rarely stepped out of the Bai family and her relationship with the Empress Dowager also became distant. Go and tell grandfather that I'll make some preparations and enter the palace in a moment. After returning to Luhuo Kingdom, entering the palace was unavoidable. Chapter 74. 74 The Empress Dowager's Summons, 2. Moreover, her enemy, Laoai, was also in the palace. Fengluan Palace. The beautiful woman was lazily lying on the chaise lounge. Her light yellow dress rendered her temperament graceful and luxurious. Two palace maids kneeled on the side, serving him. One of them was holding a plate of fruit, while the other was holding a cup of tea above her head. They were extremely respectful. Your ladyship the Empress, the Crown Princess requests an audience. A palace maid walked in, bowed, and respectfully said. Ning Dai took the teacup from the palace maid's hand and took a small sip, then slowly put it down. Let her in. Yes, your majesty. The palace maid accepted the order and retreated. Not long after, Bai Ruo slowly walked over under the lead of this palace maid. Your son pays his respects to mother. Bai Ruo slightly bent her knees and lowered her head, her voice soft and moving. Ning Dai's expression relaxed as she raised her hand. Ruoer, get up quickly. Why have you come to see mother today? Hearing this, Bai Ruo stood up straight, a gentle smile on her beautiful face as she slowly walked to Ning Dai's side. Empress mother, Ruoer has come to look for Empress mother. Firstly, she wants to pay her respects to Empress mother. Secondly, Ruoer heard that the Empress Dowager has invited Ruoer's elder sister, Bai Yan, into the palace. Bai Yan. Upon hearing this name, Ning Dai could not help but frown, and the disgust in her eyes was not concealed at all. An unchanged woman dares to step into my palace? Ruoer, do you want to see that woman? Bai Ruo was a little embarrassed, but in the end, under Ning Dai's intense gaze, she gently nodded. After all, she and I are sisters. However, because I snatched the crown prince away, she has a deep opinion of me and definitely won't want to see me. Mother, please help to summon my sister so that we can meet again. You stole the crown prince? Bai Yan actually thinks this way. Ning Dai's jade-like hand suddenly fell on the table, and her face was very ugly. This prince and the crown prince already don't mind that she's a waste, but in the end, this waste still dares to smear the imperial family's reputation? How could Bengong want such a daughter-in-law? Now, it's clearly her fault, yet she still dares to push it to you. Mother, please calm your anger. Bai Ruo hurriedly knelt down and sobbed. Sister was young and insensible back then. That's why she made a mistake. If mother blames her, blame Ruoer. If it wasn't for Ruoer not taking good care of sister, she wouldn't have done such a disgraceful thing to the family. Ning Dai's originally angry face looked at Bai Ruo who was kneeling in front of her. She sighed helplessly, forget it, Bengong will not be angry. Get up, you don't need to take responsibility for her. Thank you, mother. Bai Ruo slowly stood up. No matter how many misunderstandings big sister has towards me, my mother has taught me from a young age to love sisters. So, I will forgive any of her mistakes. What an affectionate sister look. Back then, she had clearly framed Bai Yan, but she had won everyone's praise while Bai Yan was pushed into the eye of the storm. Moreover, Zhen, Bai Ruo was somewhat at a loss. There's a sentence that Ruoer doesn't know if she should say. Ruoer, if you have something to say, just say it. You don't have to be so reserved in front of mother. Clearly, Ning Dai was very satisfied with this daughter-in-law. If the crown prince had really married that trash Bai Yan back then, she would have been angered to death. Ruoer begs mother to allow sister to become the crown prince's concubine. Bai Ruo bit her lips. What? Ning Dai's long, shapely eyebrows shot up, and she said angrily, how can a little slut who has lost her virginity be worthy of being the imperial family's concubine? Chapter 75 75 The Empress Dowager's Summons, 3. Imperial Mother, Bai Ruo hurriedly called out, last night, the crown prince went to attend elder sister's welcoming banquet and learned that old Master Lan has already recovered. If the crown prince takes elder sister as a concubine, it means that the Lan family will stand on her side in the future. But Yingluo, Bai Yan had already lost her virginity. If the crown prince took her in as a concubine, wouldn't that be equivalent to tarnishing the imperial family's reputation? As if she knew the empress's concerns, Bai Ruo smiled sweetly, Mother, it's enough to keep this matter a secret. Just say that I really miss my sister, so I want her to accompany me in the crown prince's palace. In fact, I want her to become the crown prince's concubine. This way, it won't tarnish the imperial family's reputation. Ning Dai's eyes turned, and she knew that Bai Ruo's words were reasonable. Even if her little imperial grandson's fate was extraordinary, there were too many people eyeing the crown prince's position. With the Lan family, it would be a greater protection for the crown prince. Of course, Ning Dai did not express her thoughts. She looked at Bai Ruo standing in front of her and her heart ached. Ruoer, I'll have to trouble you this way. How could he allow others to sleep beside the bed? And how many women would be willing to take in concubines for their husbands? For Bai Ruo to be able to make such a decision, it could be seen that this girl was really a virtuous woman. Imperial mother, Ruoer doesn't feel aggrieved. Bai Ruo shook her head. As long as it's beneficial to the crown prince, even if Ruoer has to give up the position of the crown prince's imperial consort, Ruoer will immediately give it up. Ning Dai looked at Bai Ruo with more and more admiration. She did not notice the coldness that flashed through Bai Ruo's eyes when she lowered her eyes. Bai Yan, do you really think that you can enter the crown prince's eyes? No. The crown prince wouldn't even touch a woman like you who had lost her virginity. I just want you to continue to be trampled under my feet. Men. Ning Dai looked at Bai Ruo in a consoling manner and instructed, immediately go and wait outside Anning Palace. Once Bai Yan appears, immediately invite her to meet this empress. The servant girl kneeling at the side carefully put down the fruit plate in her hand. After bowing to the empress, she retreated. Ever since Bai Yan entered the palace under the lead of the nanny, she had directly stepped into Peace Palace. When a voice was heard, the curtain of the inner room was lifted. Bai Yan looked up and saw a kind old granny walking out with the help of a palace maid. The moment her old face saw Bai Yan, a loving smile appeared. You're that lass Bai Yan? I haven't seen you for so many years, and you've already grown so much. The Empress Dowager held Bai Yan's hand and said with a sigh, Child, don't blame me for not being able to protect you back then. It was the Emperor who insisted on breaking off the engagement. Even if I believe that you are not that kind of person, I can't change the Emperor's decision. Even though the Emperor was very filial, he placed great importance on the face of the royal family. How could he let Bai Yan, whose reputation had been ruined, marry into the royal family just because of a single word from the Empress Dowager? What are you guys doing? When the Empress Dowager saw the palace maids standing around her, she sternly shouted, Aren't you going to show Bai Yan a seat? Yes, Empress Dowager. The palace maid bowed and retreated. Very quickly, she brought over a chair and placed it in front of Bai Yan. Empress Dowager, have you been feeling unwell these days? Bai Yan looked at the Empress Dowager's slightly green face and her expression sank bit by bit. The Empress Dowager was surprised and smiled. You care about me, girl? That's right. I've been feeling a little unwell recently. It should be because I'm too tired. It's no problem. I'm afraid it won't be that simple, hee hee. Chapter 76. 76 The Empress invites you. From the moment she entered the room, she had already sensed that the Empress Dowager must have been poisoned. It was just that the poison took a longer time to take effect, so the Empress Dowager did not notice. Little lass Bai Yan, you mean Wan Wan? The Empress Dowager was not stupid and immediately understood Bai Yan's meaning. Her brows furrowed slightly. Bai Yan glanced at the Empress Dowager and said indifferently, Empress Dowager, you'd better find a trusted alchemist to take a look. Remember, you must be a pill master. Ordinary doctors can't see your illness. In reality, Bai Yan only needed one pill to cure the Empress Dowager's poison. But this was the palace, and she did not intend to do so. It was enough to just remind the Empress Dowager. As expected, hearing Bai Yan's words, the Empress Dowager fell into deep thought, as if she was thinking about something. She did not even notice when Bai Yan had left Huahua. However, Bai Yan had just walked out of Anning Palace when she was blocked by a palace maid. The palace maid was dressed in a pink palace dress, and she raised her chin arrogantly. "Miss Bai, Her Majesty the Empress wants you to go see her." "I have to go just because she wants me to." Bai Yan swept a glance at the palace maid and the corners of her lips curled up into a smile. "Where's the qualification? This is the Empress's order, do you dare to disobey?" The palace maid was furious. Bai Yan's eyes narrowed slightly and a cold glint flashed past the corners of her eyes. "It's not impossible for her to see me, I'll be waiting for her in the imperial garden, let her come over herself." "You're so silly." The palace maid had never seen anyone who dared to disobey orders like this before. Her expression changed drastically and she was just about to scold out when Bai Yan's voice, which was filled with coldness, suddenly exploded beside her ear. "Get lost." She, Bai Yan, had not been reduced to the point where she would be at the beck and call of an empress. He wanted to see her? Sure, then she had to come personally. The palace maid's breathing stagnated and her face turned pale. She raised her head in shock and saw a gorgeous red dress slowly walking in the direction of the back garden under the hot Sunday. She gritted her teeth and decided to report this to the Empress. In the back garden, hundreds of flowers were competing for fragrance. Bai Yan sat down in the pavilion and leaned lazily against the pillar behind her. She crossed her legs and admired the beautiful scenery in the back garden. At this moment, Yingluo. From afar, an angry figure quickly walked over. The beautiful woman's graceful and noble face was filled with anger. Beside her, Bai Ruo's face was filled with anxiety and the worry in her eyes was also so obvious. Worry? Bai Yan sneered. From her point of view, she should be gloating over his misfortune. Ning Dai immediately saw the woman sitting lazily in the pavilion, and she was so angry that her eyebrows stood up. "You're so bold. This prince has ordered you to meet him, and you dare to disobey the decree. You still dare to be so arrogant. Men, take this woman down for Bangong to be interrogated." "Mother," Bai Ruo quickly grabbed Ning Dai's hand and shook her head. "Sister is resentful that Ruoer has snatched her position, so she is not willing to come to see mother. It was not intentional. I hope mother will not blame her." After saying that, she turned to Bai Yan and hurriedly gave her a look. "Sister, quickly apologize to mother. Mother has summoned you this time because she has a great news to tell you." A gorgeous red dress was spread on the pavilion, and the petals fell, dyeing the red dress with the color of peach flowers. "Good news." "Oh." Bai Yan raised her brows and smiled sweetly. Could it be that the Empress is going to remarry? Chapter 77. 77 Crown Prince's Wife. "You dare." Ning Dai's expression changed drastically. "Bai Yan, don't try to frame this princess here." "Oh? If the Empress wasn't going to remarry, what happy event would there be in Fengluan Palace? Could it be that Bai Ruo wanted to marry someone else? This is indeed worthy of congratulations, congratulations to the two of you." Bai Yan turned over and stood up, a smile on her beautiful face. If one did not know, they would really think that she was congratulating Bai Ruo and the Empress. Ning Dai was so angry that her delicate face was twisted. If it wasn't for the crown prince gaining power in the Lan family, she would have beaten this woman to death this morning. "Ruo, you talk to her." She was really afraid that if she continued, she would be angered to death by this woman. "Yes, mother." Bai Ruo was not affected by Bai Yan's words. She smiled gently. "Elder sister, this joyous event is related to you. I have already convinced mother to let you become the crown prince's concubine. You should quickly return to the Lan family to make preparations. Today, you will follow me to the crown prince's residence." Ning Dai arrogantly raised her head. In her eyes, Bai Yan being able to become the crown prince's concubine was too much of a social climb. Bai Yan smiled. This smile was devastatingly beautiful. She slowly stood up from the pavilion and slowly walked towards Bai Ruo. Back then, Your Bai family wanted to sell me to an old man as a concubine. Now, you still want me to be someone else's concubine? Could it be that in the eyes of you people, I, Bai Yan, am only worthy of being a concubine? Bai Ruo's expression changed slightly as she bit her lips. I don't know what you're talking about, sister. When did we sell you to an old man to be his concubine? Even if you don't like me, you can't frame me. I know that big sister has complaints about me, but if you can forgive me, I'm willing to give the position of the crown prince's consort to you, Yingluo. Ruoer. Ning Dai's face darkened and she said sternly, let her be the crown prince's consort? What was this? Don't mention that she was pregnant with a bastard child before. Even if he didn't, it was impossible for this trash to obtain the heavens' pity and give birth to a Lin Er. Your belly has worked hard to give birth to such an outstanding son. I reckon that this trash has no chance to see the scene of the 10,000 beasts returning to the sect that day. 10,000 beasts greeting their ancestors. Bai Yan's gaze revealed a strange look. She had long known that Bai Ruo had taken the view of all the beasts returning to their sects as her own responsibility, but now that she heard it with her own ears, she couldn't help but laugh in anger. If you like the position of the crown prince's consort, you can take it yourself. Bai Yan slowly walked to Bai Ruo's side and said in a low voice, I, Zhen, don't care for it. She didn't deliberately lower her voice, so the Empress who was at the side also heard these words and immediately became quite angry. Speaking of which, it was strange. When Bai Yan was peeking at the crown prince, she felt disgusted. Now that she heard Bai Yan claim that she did not like the position of the crown prince's consort, she was very angry. Bai Yan. How dare you? Bangong's imperial son is so outstanding, even if you were to be his bed-warming servant girl, it would be too good for you. Not only did you disobey the decree, but you also looked down on the imperial family. He would be punished for both crimes. Men, take her down. Wait a moment. Bai Ruo suddenly spoke up and quickly walked to Bai Yan's side. She raised her hand, wanting to pull Bai Yan's hand. A cold glint streaked across Bai Yan's eyes. Just as Bai Ruo was about to touch her, she suddenly raised her foot and kicked Bai Ruo out with a bang, sending her flying. Everyone was stunned. Even the Empress was stunned. Bai Ruo was publicly acknowledged as a genius with great strength. Otherwise, she would not have allowed the crown prince to marry Bai Ruo. But now, with just a single kick, Qian and Bai Ruo were sent flying. Chapter 78 Chapter 78, no mistake, how is there a cover-up? Hurry, and help the crown prince consort up. Ning Dai was the first to regain her senses and immediately ordered the palace maids to help Bai Ruo. She then turned her gaze to Bai Yan and said angrily, Bai Yan, you're really bold. To think that Ruoer still came to put in a good word for you. You actually dare to humiliate the crown prince consort in front of this crown prince. I'm a clean freak and don't like to be touched. Once someone wants to touch me, I can't control my hands and feet. Bai Yan shrugged her shoulders and her face was filled with helplessness, as if she had not intended to kick Bai Ruo. Ning Dai's expression suddenly changed, and she said angrily, what a good Bai Yan. This time, it's useless no matter who comes to plead for her. Men, take her down for Bangong. When Ning Dai's words fell, the group of palace maids and guards behind her quickly walked towards Bai Yan. A cold glint suddenly appeared in Bai Yan's eyes as she looked coldly at this group of guards who were about to make a move. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. This arc was filled with killing intent, and the killing intent in his eyes was also revealed bit by bit. Suddenly, a domineering and arrogant voice suddenly fell down, deafening. Who gave you the right to touch this king's woman? The familiar voice startled Bai Yan. Immediately, a hand reached out from behind her and pulled her into an embrace. The man's embrace was different from his lips. It was domineering and warm, and Bai Yan actually had a moment of daze. What are you doing here? Bai Yan returned to her senses. She raised her head and looked at the man's devilish face in front of her. She could not help but sigh in her heart. In this world, there was actually a man who could be beautiful to this extent. He was unparalleled and domineering. Good girl. The man lowered his head and smiled lightly. His arm was tightly wrapped around Bai Yan's waist. Leave the matters here to this prince to handle. Bai Yan raised her brows. If her first encounter with this man was an accident, then the following few times were all intentional. This made Bai Yan feel a little uneasy in her heart. Could it be that he had already discovered little Chen Er's existence? Little Yan Er, you're too naughty. This king can only help you clean up the mess. The man's pampering tone made Bai Yan feel like thunder was rumbling in the sky, and she was completely dumbfounded. Did you take the wrong medicine? Last night, he was still so overbearing. In just one night, he had changed so much. If he didn't take the wrong medicine, what was he? These words caused a trace of anger to flash across Dick Hang's phoenix eyes. His red lips curled up slightly as he ruthlessly pulled Bai Yan into his embrace, his large hand forcefully pinching her butt. This King Xiao Yan Er is really disobedient. Once this king is done with this matter, I'll properly settle the score with you. Bai Yan felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Could it be that the Suanji Dikang really knew about little Chen Er's matter? If it was before, just the fact that Dikang touched her butt was enough for her to fall out with him. But now, because of Dikang's words, she gradually fell into deep thought. The Azure Emperor was very strong, this was a fact. If she brought out all the forces in her hands, would she be able to fight against him? No matter what, Chen Er was her precious treasure. Even if she had to give up everything, she would not give Chen Er to anyone. Prince Kang, Bai Yan has injured the crown prince consort and you still want to protect her? Ning Dai was still a little afraid of this man. Everyone knew that the Azure Emperor was extremely powerful and had won the trust of His Majesty. As for exactly how powerful he was, no one was able to figure it out. Do I need to protect others? The man sneered. Ning Dai's heart was at ease, as long as the Kang Emperor did not cover up for her Suanji. However, before she could open her mouth, the man's domineering voice sounded again. This prince's people never make mistakes. Since they didn't do anything wrong, how can I cover for them? Chapter 79. 79 The Empress's Stupidity, 1. Ning Dai's expression changed, and she pulled a long face in an instant. Prince Kang, this prince knows that the emperor trusts you, but this prince is still the head of the harem now that the crown princess consort has been humiliated. Does this prince not even have the right to teach her a lesson? Dick Hang's phoenix eyes raised slightly as he looked down at Ning Dai who was standing in front of him. Then this prince doesn't know who gave you the right to teach this prince's people a lesson. What are you doing? Ning Dai was so angry that she could not say anything for a moment. Her angry eyes glared at Bai Yan. Bai Yan was indeed the same as her mother, a vixen who seduced men everywhere. Dick Hang could not even tell that he was the princess of the royal family, yet he could actually protect a dirty woman. It was a good thing this woman didn't marry the crown prince. Otherwise, she would have turned against the crown prince sooner or later. Mother, Bai Ruo clutched her stomach and walked to Ning Dai's side with a pale face. She shook her head. Ruoer is fine. Elder sister didn't do it on purpose. Please don't make things difficult for elder sister, mother. Seeing the tears in Bai Ruo's eyes but still holding back her grievances to defend Bai Yan, Ning Dai's heart felt very bad. Ruoer, don't worry. Mother will definitely seek justice for you today. She patted the back of Bai Ruo's hand and her sharp gaze passed through Dick Hang and landed on Bai Yan. We are both daughters of the Bai family. Why is one pure and kind while the other Suanji so rude? Dick Hang directly ignored Ning Dai's words. His large hand gently stroked Bai Yan's head as if Wan Wan was stroking her hair. Xiao Yan how do you want this king to deal with them? I've already taught Bai Ruo a lesson. Bai Yan smacked Dikang's hand away. So, this time, let's forget about it? Forget it? Dikang's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly. He looked suspiciously at the woman in his arms. When he saw the sinister smile on the woman's lips, his red lips curled up. He knew that this little girl would not let the enemy off so easily. Bai Yan, whether this matter is over or not is not something you can decide. Ning Dai clenched her fists tightly and gave the guards beside her a look. Take this woman down immediately. Yes, Your Majesty. This time, Bai Ruo did not stop him. She stood behind the Empress and looked at the woman in Dikang's arms. A sinister look flashed in her eyes. So what if she had Dikang's protection? In Luhuo Kingdom, only His Majesty and the Empress could make decisions. Those guards knew of Dikang's reputation. Now, when they saw the woman who was firmly protected in Dikang's arms, they could not help but feel fear. However, the Empress had already spoken, so they could only brace themselves and go up. A killing intent spread out from Dikang's body, filling the entire back garden. The man's silver hair and purple robe were domineering and flamboyant. It was as if he was standing under a strong wind, his robe flying and his silver hair dancing. A domineering shout was heard, and the guards who had rushed forward felt as if they had been hit in the chest by a stone, falling straight out with a bang. Fresh blood flowed out of his mouth, staining the clean ground. Ning Dai's face instantly turned ashen. It was true that she was afraid of Dikang, but that was only because she was afraid of his strength. No matter what, she was also the empress of a country, so Dikang did not have the guts to truly be her enemy. Furthermore, it was all for a dirty woman. However, Ning Dai had never expected that Dikang would really have the guts to disobey the imperial power. For Xiao Yan Er's sake, this king will let you live for the time being. When this king counts to 3, if you're still in Suanji, then don't even think about leaving. Hurry up and get lost. Chapter 80. 80 The Empress was stupid, too. Ning Dai's body stiffened a little. Perhaps she was frightened by Dikang's aura. She gritted her teeth and said, Ruoer, let's go. Bai Ruo was stunned. When she raised her eyes, she saw Ning Dai leading a group of palace maids and was about to leave. Her expression suddenly turned ugly. The Empress, as the head of the harem, actually admitted defeat in front of Dikang? Was this Dikang's strength really so powerful? Yuchen. The man's voice was domineering and cold, causing Bai Ruo's face to turn pale. She did not wait for the man to continue counting and hurriedly chased in the direction that Ning Dai had left in without looking back. Bai Yan stared in the direction that Bai Ruo had left. Her eyes flickered a few times and the corners of her lips curled into a sinister arc. At this moment, a deep voice rang in her ears. When she came back to her senses, she was already pressed against the wall behind her by the man. The people who are in the way have already left, Bai Yan. Shouldn't you explain to this prince about your unwed pregnancy? This man's face changed faster than the flip of a book. Bai Yan narrowed her eyes slightly and raised her head to look at the handsome face in close proximity with a smile. You're asking the obvious? I, Bai Yan, hooked up with someone and had an affair, got pregnant before marriage, and even eloped outside. Could it be that you really don't know about it? Bai Yan. Dikang's gaze was filled with anger as he ruthlessly pressed down on her body. Must this prince find evidence before you will admit it? At the end, he couldn't help but grit his teeth. In the beginning, Dikang only wanted to prove that this woman was the one who had raped him, so as to take revenge for that day. But now, hearing Bai Yan repeatedly say that he had hooked up with someone and had an affair, there was a ball of anger burning in his heart again. He really wanted to directly execute this woman on the spot. Dikang, Bai Yan tilted her head and looked at the man in front of her with a smile that was not a smile. Why do you keep pestering me? Yingluo, are you in love with me? Love. Dikang's eyes narrowed. For hundreds of years, he had never been moved by any woman and had never been in love. Say love? That would really be a joke. When had he, Dikang, ever fallen in love with a woman? Bai Yan, you'd better not let this king find out that you were the one who did the things back then. Otherwise, I'll. He swept a threatening glance at Bai Yan's chest before his phoenix eyes swept towards her lower body. His intention was very obvious. Bai Yan's heart was already filled with regret. If she had known that she would be entangled with Dikang today, that day even if she had to burn herself to death, she would never have provoked this terrifying man. Dikang, as a man, you were merely raped by someone. Is it worth it for you to pursue this matter? Dikang smiled eerily. This prince did want to take revenge at the beginning. But now it seems that compared to raping this prince, the plot of Qian kidnapping this prince's child is more serious. Bai Yan's heart trembled a few times. However, looking at the situation, Dikang had not discovered Bai Xiaoqan's existence. Otherwise, he would not have come to find her alone to sound her out but would have directly brought Bai Xiaoqian over. It seemed like he couldn't let Chen Er stay in this place for too long. He had to immediately send her back to the Sacred Isle. I've never seen you before. Bai Yan did not look at Dikang's demonic eyes. My child is also not yours. Moreover, he has already lost his darling before this. When these words were said, Bai Yan clearly felt the large hand that was originally pressing down on her tremble slightly. The man's heavy breath hit her face, causing her to involuntarily turn her face away. Do you think this king will believe you? The man lifted Bai Yan's chin and forced her to look at him. You little thing are too cunning. This king was almost deceived by you. Chapter 81. 81 The Empress was foolish. 3. What do I have to do for you to stop pestering me? Bai Yan's eyes turned cold as she asked in a cold voice. After she said this, it was like a fist that ruthlessly smashed into Dikang's heart, making his heart feel stuffy. His two arms firmly imprisoned her body. This woman wanted to avoid him like this. Bai Yan, you're unlucky to have bumped into this king's hands. It's not so easy to escape. Suddenly, a sharp cry came from outside the pavilion, causing the man who was pressing down on Bai Yan to frown slightly. A cold glint flashed across his phoenix eyes. At this moment, outside the pavilion, the young girl was covering her mouth in disbelief. Her eyes were full of shock and her soft body was trembling. Everyone knew that the Kang Emperor was obsessed with cleanliness and would never allow any woman to get close to him. Back then, she had only touched the corner of his clothes and her arm had almost been chopped off. But now, Dikang was actually kissing a woman. She didn't believe Wan. The man's domineering and cold voice brought the girl back to her senses. When she raised her head, she was already facing the man's bloodthirsty eyes. At this moment, the cold expression of the man when he ordered the guards to cut off her hand appeared in her mind again. She was so frightened that her face turned pale. She glanced at Bai Yan, whose face was covered by her hair, with an unwilling gaze. She bit her lip and turned around to walk back in the direction she came from. After the sixth princess left, Bai Yan stood up from the long bench. Her body leaned against the long pillar and her tongue gently licked the blood at the corner of her mouth. You're interested in letting people watch, but I don't have such a hobby. Bai Yan. Dikang pinched Bai Yan's chin and his red lips moved to the side of her lips as he said in a threatening tone, It's impossible for you to escape from this king's entanglement in this lifetime, don't even think about running away, because even if you run to the ends of the earth, this king will find you. You treated this king so well back then, so this king will definitely repay you well. I'll spank your butt again. He also deliberately emphasized the word repay. The smile on Bai Yan's lips froze. Just as she was filled with anger, she saw that the man in front of her had already left very quickly. Dikang has already suspected little Chen Er's existence. Bai Yan's chin still had the warmth of the man's finger, which also made her expression sink a little. Then I must think of a way to make little Chen Er leave Luhuo Kingdom unknowingly these few days. If Dikang really wanted to investigate, he could easily find out where little Chen Er lived. However, since he was already suspicious, it was not so easy to send little Chen Er away. She had to go back and think of a way. Thinking of this, Bai Yan did not stay any longer. She got up, tidied up her clothes, and quickly walked in the direction of the arched door. Ning Dai angrily walked in and sat down. Her face was livid with anger. "Mother, please." Bai Ruo followed her in. She was like a little daughter-in-law as she stood beside Ning Dai, feeling aggrieved. "This matter is all our Bai family's fault. If it wasn't for my mother not educating my sister well, she wouldn't be so impudent." Ning Dai took a deep breath. "You're not to blame for this matter. You've also suffered a great grievance. Now, the Azure Emperor only dares to act tyrannically because of His Majesty's trust. When he loses His Majesty's trust, I'll settle all the new and old grudges with them. I'll start with one chapter, and there will be more today." Chapter 82. 82 The Empress was foolish. 4. Bai Ruo raised her head in surprise. She originally thought that the Empress would immediately go to His Majesty to complain, but from her tone now, did she want to swallow this anger? She must not let Dikang become Bai Yan's backing. "Mother," Bai Ruo's eyes flickered a few times and she smiled gently, "Ruo has come to find you this time because there's one more thing that I want Mother to issue an order for." Ning Dai's expression was still not too good. "What is it?" "Prince Kang is not young anymore, and for so many years, there has not been a mistress of the residence. This is not good, so Ruo wishes for her sister to marry Prince Kang. I hope Mother can make the decision." "Ruo," Ning Dai muttered to herself for a moment before saying, "You've also seen the Kang Emperor's attitude towards Bai Yan. If I go too far, I'm afraid that the Kang Emperor will report this to His Majesty." "Mother," Bai Ruo slowly walked to Ning Dai's side and took the tea from the palace maid's hands. She gently placed it in front of Ning Dai. Prince Kang was angry just now because his dignity was challenged, not because of sister. Moreover, does Mother think that Prince Kang would really fall in love with a woman who had lost her virginity? Ning Dai's brows slowly relaxed. "You mean Yingluo?" Ruo can see that Prince Kang is very interested in sister. Why don't Mother do her a favor at little cost and make sister a concubine, and then order Ger to be his wife? By then, Prince Kang would be very grateful to Mother. Regardless of whether Bai Yan fell into her hands or Bai Ji's hands, the outcome would be the same. In that case, there was no need for her to let that woman enter the Crown Prince's residence as an eyesore. "I've heard of Prince Kang. It's said that he's a clean freak." Ning Dai's tone was still a little hesitant. This man was too terrifying, so terrifying that she did not dare to provoke him. "Mother, as the saying goes, what you hear is false, but what you see is true. If Prince Kang was interested in sister, then the so-called misophobia must only be a rumor." The corners of Bai Ruo's lips lifted into a smile. Her face was gentle, like water and the moon. While Ning Dai was still considering, Bai Ruo's soft voice sounded again. "Moreover, Qian, I heard that the sixth princess is interested in Prince Kang. The sixth princess is the daughter of noble consort Lu and also the younger sister of the third prince. The third prince has the ambition of a wolf. Even if the crown prince is blessed by the heavens, he can't eliminate those people's wolf-like ambitions. If the third prince gains the help of the Azure Emperor, it will be extremely disadvantageous to the crown prince." Ning Dai, who was originally in deep thought, heard Bai Ruo's words and a sharp light flashed in her eyes. "Pass down this prince's imperial decree, ordering Bai family's Bai Ji to be Prince Kang's main consort and to choose a date to get married. At the same time, issue another decree to the Lan family. After a month after Prince Kang's marriage, let Bai Yan enter the prince's residence as a concubine. She must not let imperial concubine Lu have her way. Ruo thanks mother on behalf of my sister and Ger, by Ruo knelt in gratitude. Otherwise, without mother's decree, it would be difficult for my sister to enter the Azure Emperor's residence as a concubine. She did not mention Bai Ji at all because in the eyes of the world, Bai Ji being the main consort was a matter of course. On the contrary, Bai Yan being a concubine was already climbing up the social ladder. What right did a woman who had gotten pregnant before marriage have to enter the royal family's genealogy? Without the Empress's decree, the imperial family could not possibly acknowledge her. You can leave, Bangong is a little tired. Ning Dai waved her hand and closed her eyes tiredly. Yes. Bai Ruo slowly stood up and bowed. She then walked out of Fengluan Palace under the respectful escort of the palace maids. The moment she stepped out of the palace, the smile on her face disappeared, and her eyes flashed with a sinister light. Bai Yan, do you really think that the Azure Emperor can become your backing? Even if he was only a prince with a different surname, but since he was crowned with the title of prince, then his marriage was not up to him to decide. Chapter 83 Chapter 83 The Azure Emperor shows his might. 1. And you, Qian, are only worthy of being a concubine. You can only stand in the dust and look up at me. The Bai family mansion. Bai Ji laid in Bai Zhengxiang's embrace and cried out in pain. Her tears flowed freely, soaking Bai Zhengxiang's clothes. Since you're fine, you should rest well. As for your revenge, I'll avenge you. Thinking of the recent events that had happened in the Bai family, Bai Zhenxiang rubbed his temples as he felt a slight headache. First, it was Yu Rong's inexplicable madness, causing him to lose all his face in public. His own daughter was also knocked unconscious by Bai Yan and that B*tch from the Lan family and left at the door. How could he not be vexed? Master! At this moment, the butler walked in and bowed respectfully. Eunuch Li is here on the Empress's orders to order the third miss to receive the decree. The imperial decree of the Empress. Bai Ji was stunned for a moment. Why did the Empress give her an edict? Ger, let's go receive the decree first. Don't let the eunuch in the palace wait too long. Bai Zhengxiang's tightly furrowed brows relaxed and he said, Someone, help the young lady dress. Yes, master. Hearing this, two maidservants who were guarding outside the door walked in. One of them walked to the head of the bed and helped Bai Ji put on her shoes, while the other picked up the gauze dress hanging on the side and walked in front of Bai Ji, helping her adjust her clothes. Bai Ji didn't know why the Empress had come to give her an edict, and walked out of the room with a perturbed heart. In the hall, Eunuch Li was sitting on the guest seat. He lifted his orchid-like fingers and gently pinched the lid of the teacup, blowing on the hot steam emitted by the tea leaves. After a long while, Bai Zhenxiang walked in with quick steps, followed by a young girl in her jade-like years. The young girl was very beautiful. Her pretty face was pink. She was born beautiful, and even without makeup, her face was ruddy and bright. Why is Eunuch Li here? This Eunuch Li was the Empress' favorite. Bai Zhenxiang naturally did not dare to neglect him and hurriedly walked over. I'm here on the Empress's orders to pass on an imperial decree to Miss Bai. Eunuch Li slowly stood up, his wrinkled old face was smiling. Miss Bai, why aren't you accepting the decree? Bai Ji was startled and hurriedly followed Bai Zhenxiang to kneel down. Pass down the Empress's orders. The Bai family's daughter Bai Ji is a virtuous lady with outstanding talent. She is a rare and extraordinary lady, and Bai Ji is hereby appointed as the Kang King's main consort. We will choose a date to marry her. After Eunuch Li finished passing on the decree, he kept it and looked at Bai Ji with a smile. This huge surprise was like layers of huge waves, instantly swallowing Bai Ji. Her eyes were filled with disbelief as she stared at Eunuch Li without blinking. At that moment, She actually suspected that there was something wrong with her ears. Miss Bai, congratulations, the Empress has already ordered the Heavenly Bureau to monitor the auspicious date from now on, you will be Lady Kang. The smile on Eunuch Li's face grew even wider. Even though he was a favorite of the Empress, he did not dare to offend the Bai family. One had to know that one of the Bai family's daughters was the Crown Prince's consort, and the other was about to become Kang Wangfei. If he offended the Bai family, how would he be able to live in the future? Ger, quickly accept the decree. Bai Zhenxiang looked at the dumbfounded Bai Ji and shouted sternly. Bai Ji finally reacted and took the imperial edict from Eunuch Li's hands. Her eyes were filled with joy. Perhaps it was because she thought of the man's extremely beautiful and devilish face, the smile on her lips became even happier. Father, the Azure Emperor is willing to marry me. She stood up excitedly and hugged the imperial edict tightly in her arms. I will be the only wife of the Azure Emperor. Chapter 84. 84 The Azure Emperor shows his might, 2. Hearing Bai Ji's excited words, Eunuch Li smiled but didn't explain. This time, not only did he have to come to the Bai family to pass on the decree, he also had to make a trip to the Lan family and Prince Kang's residence later for a walk. In any case, the Empress's decree was here. No matter how bold the Kang Prince was, he would not dare to defy the decree. Miss Bai, we still have some business to attend to, so we'll leave first. Men, Bai Zhenxiang also regained his senses and ordered, send eunuch out. Bai Ji's mind was filled with the contents of the imperial decree, so she naturally ignored Eunuch Li. After the housekeeper sent Eunuch Li out, she raised her shy little face. Father, I'm going to tell the world that I'll soon be the wife of Prince Kang. Tell those women to stop having any ideas about my fiancé. Especially that B*TCH Bai Yan. So what if she had obtained the Azure Emperor's protection? She was just a woman who had lost her chastity. Prince Kang was only curious about her for a moment, and he would never marry her. All right, you can go. Bai Zhengxiang's gloominess from before was swept away, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. You should also make a trip to the Lan family and let them attend your wedding ceremony. Let the people in the Lan family understand that the daughter of Bai Zhenxiang, will always be the best. As for Bai Yan Suanji, she was just an unfilial daughter who had been driven out of the family. She was not worthy of being his daughter. Yes, father. Bai Ji stuck out her tongue in a coquettish manner. She took the imperial decree that proved her identity, turned around, and walked towards the door. Even without Bai Zhengxiang's words, she would definitely go to the Lan family to show off. The Azure Emperor's residence was majestic and majestic. The two golden lions in front of the door seemed to come to life at any time, which made Eunuch Li a little frightened. Make a trip to the Lan family. Eunuch Li turned his head and said to the young eunuch following behind him, directly pass on the Empress's verbal order to order Bai Yan to become the Kang Emperor's concubine. He had already gained the favor of Prince Kang's main consort, so there was no need for him to place a mere concubine in his eyes. A mere concubine did not have the right to make him personally pass down the decree. The young eunuch bowed and retreated. After the young eunuch had left, Eunuch Li started to walk towards the Azure Emperor Palace. Stop! At the entrance of the manor, two guards blocked Eunuch Li's path. His Highness has ordered that no one is allowed to enter the Azure Emperor's residence without his permission. Eunuch Li was given the cold shoulder the moment he arrived. He frowned slightly. This eunuch is here to pass on the Empress's imperial decree. Please come out and receive the decree, Prince Kang. The Empress's decree. The two guards looked at each other, and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. We can only obey the Azure Emperor's orders, no matter who it is. Eunuch Li's brows furrowed even more. He continued to take 2 steps forward, his voice sharp. The Empress's imperial decree has arrived. Please come out to receive the decree. The shrill voice reverberated in the air, lingering for a long time. When Eunuch saw that there was no response from the imperial residence, he wanted to shout at the top of his lungs again. However, at this moment, a domineering voice came from the imperial residence. "Get lost." Eunuch's eyes widened in shock. Was this Prince Kang really not giving him any face? He was here to pass on the Empress's imperial decree, and he actually told him to get lost. The foreheads of the two guards were covered in cold sweat. They could hear the anger in their prince's voice. They hurriedly stepped forward and held Eunuch's shoulders, wanting to throw him out. Eunuch panicked and shouted, "Prince Kang, I've come to tell you good news. The Empress bestowing a marriage to the Bai family's young miss on you is a great thing." Part 2 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.